Good evening. Could we get just a moment of silence, and then we'll start our regular meeting. Thank you. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting for April 21st, 2020 into session, and could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Was there an amendment?
Say that again.
Was there? I didn't hear an amendment.
As presented. As presented.
As presented.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
As presented.
As presented.
As presented.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. The general public comment period is an opportunity for citizens to give input on relevant county issues which are not on the board's agenda and is not intended as a question and answer period. Emily, has anyone signed up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we've received numerous emails from individuals. They're all related to the budget in one way or another, so it will be part of the agenda public comment period. I wanted to go ahead and read them. First is Mr. Billy Robinson of 44 Rittenhour Hollow Road. I would like some input before the vote on the budget in regards to the EDA portion, and will it change since criminal charges have been dropped by the Commonwealth as of right now? I don't see the EDA being able to recoup any of their losses now, so how can we continue to fund them when they will never get out of debt unless bankruptcy is declared, which as I understand it, can't be. Also, something needs to be done in regards to the police station. Thousands of taxpayer dollars are being wasted every month this continues. Why take this to court? Taxpayers will end up suing themselves and nobody wins in that situation. Since the county is a fiscal agent of the EDA, I hope they can put some pressure on the town to pay for the police department and stop wasting any more taxpayer dollars. These days, we definitely don't have any to spare. And we did respond to Mr. Robinson and let him know that the civil suit is not related to the criminal charges and that is continuing. So. Next is Christine Aaron of 90 Briar Lane. I'm in full support of the tax increase in Shenandoah Farms. The roads are an essential safety concern for its residents, not only during inclement weather, but on any given day are the roads unsafe with fallen trees close to the road, large rocks, inconsistent soft ditch lines, and unprotected cliff drop-offs. I personally have replaced 4 tires on 2 vehicles last year alone. The tax increase will be less expensive than continuous tire replacement. It is my understanding from a document that I read from the Shenandoah Farms HOA that there are road repair and paving projects that are outstanding since 2014. This is truly unacceptable and does not look out for the best interest of the residents of Shenandoah Farms. I support the increase and urge the board to start making the long overdue repairs and pave the roads. Next is Marcia Petrie of 580 Youngs Drive. I just received a letter explaining about another tax increase and not sure this will go far at all since yesterday was the final day, which was April 14th, last week's meeting. I live on Youngs Drive, been a resident for 13 years. Received a letter and spoke to Mr. Childress, to which I was told the pavement of our road would start next year, 2021. Last year in the Shenandoah Farms area already had a tax increase, and with the COVID-19 at hand, this has totally come at the worst of times. Can't this wait until folks get back on their feet? I would have thought with what is going on, this would be one of the last items on people's minds. I am all for improvements, and I am grateful, I think. I love the fact of having a dirt road so that the speed would totally stay down to a minimum, although today an SUV was barreling past the house. It would be very nice not to have the amount of dust that flies in the hot summer, however, this will entice more drivers to go faster down the road. How do you know if you have an improved lot or an unimproved lot, and what makes the determination? And I did respond to her email and explain the difference between the two. Next, I have 3 emails from Nancy Wynn and Dale Orlowski, both of 146 Lookout Point Way in Linden. This one is from Miss Nancy Wynn. First, the misinformation I shared on Facebook was from another post on social media. I regret that I did not vet the information first, but it was immediately corrected or I took it down. You mentioned that another resident basically called us out on Facebook, but this resident had not offered a correction. He could have, he chose not to. This resident only said we were wrong, but did not offer the correction. That would have ended the situation of misinformation. Who was stirring up trouble? I'm not trying to create negativity. I have rarely interfered. I have not always agreed to things. My issue is not that I don't support the road share, because I do. It is a good thing. Holding off a year will only postpone it by a year, and we are not yet certain if the state will have funds for road share. What my issues are, the lack of candor and true transparency to the property owners. First, you said the meeting on the 11th of January 2020 had a huge turnout. I think you had 30 people. There are 2,800 properties in Shenandoah Farms. Who gets notice of the agenda items? You as a corporation surely have other topics outside of the advisory board, Sanitary District funds and spending. I do question the percentage of the community being in support. How much? I don't know. Well, we can FOIA that later. Both the county administrator, to include the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District Manager, Robert Childress, the Board of Supervisors, and you as the contracted advisory board for the community need to make 100% certain that all property owners are aware of dealings, tax increase, that affect the property owner well in advance of 2 weeks before a meeting. This discussion and your decision should have been sent out in January. That is a lack of responsibility on all your parts. I could not even look at your plan on increase because it was not posted online with your organization or county. This is how the EDA got away with so much. I do pay attention to what is going on. 30 people does not represent the 2,800 property owners. Why was it recommended that the POSF Inc. would be advisors? Puzzled after the property owners had lost faith in your organization's abilities and questionable practices with money, bids, etc. I am not required to attend a POSF Inc. meeting. I am not a shareholder. Some things I can offer that would clear up the property owners' confusion. We are not residents, we are property owners' taxpayers. POSF Inc. is always referring to residents. If you want to use your own money, not taxpayer money, to fund your corporation's activities and include non-property owner taxpayer, then do so. You are a corporation, so I think it would be wise to include POSF Inc. I am working on the legal aspects of how you seem to come off as and represent the organization as some HOA or POA. You need to state in your correspondence that you are acting as the advisory board to the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District Manager/County. I am writing to you all so you understand that when you hide things from the public, specifically property owners, that starts some of us to get a bit suspicious. You don't have to hide this road share or expenses, but what else don't we know? I am not asking for a response, nor do I want one. Next is from Dale Orlowski, 146 Lookout Point Way, and this was April 15th. The Survey Monkey at 144 votes of 2,800 properties is 5.14%. This is because the property owners did not receive the advisory board's letter until Friday. Not a very good survey of the amount of property owners. This survey, by the way, was taken down on April the 14th. It wasn't, it's still up. Was the survey vetted by the county, the sanitary district manager, to ensure that only Shenandoah Farms property owners' inputs were counted like they did with the letters, which they found were not all from property owners. Property Owners of Shenandoah Farms, Inc. is a non-profit, non-stockholding corporation registered with the Commonwealth of Virginia, not a property owners association. We checked with the state ombudsman, who verified that the POSF Inc. was not a registered property owners association. Definition of a corporation is as follows. Quote, a form of business operation that declares the business as a separate legal entity guided by a group of officers known as the Board of Directors. A corporate structure is perhaps the most advantageous way to start a business because a corporation exists as a separate entity. End quote. Property owners like myself are required to belong to and pay tax to the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District, which now is run by the county, not the POSF Inc., which is a business. That is why we direct our concern to you, our elected officials, and not the property owners of Shenandoah Farms. When you and the other supervisors direct us to go to POSF to represent us, you might as well be asking us to go and ask Walmart to represent us, another corporation. A taxpayer cannot be directed to belong to a corporation, nor can they be forced to be represented by a corporation. Which brings me to another question. Why is the board funneling our taxpayer money to a corporation and not requiring them to abide by Commonwealth of Virginia FOIA laws? POSF is listed on the county webpage as being an advisory to Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District, which is now run by the county on the roads and common property. By FOIA, since they are advising you, they need to be in compliance with FOIA. The county took the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District away from the POSF because of several reasons brought forth to them by the property owners, so why are they being used as advisors? My comment about keeping your word was that you did not ask at the meeting, as you stated in your email. I or one of the board members will also suggest, I would hope that this measure would be tabled till the voice of the citizens can be heard. It needs to be discussed more. I respectfully suggest in the future, if you are going to hold virtual meetings, before closing out questions for the meeting, you give the citizens time to type out comments and questions. The above information and questions could have been added to the meeting minutes. Yes, we can agree to disagree, but that is after we have all the facts. And as you stated below, you are one of the 5 votes on the request from the Shenandoah Farms Property Owners Association Board. I am addressing this email to the other 4 members and the clerk. I hope in the future you would stop referring to the POSF as the Property Owners Association, since they are not legally a Property Owners Association representing us. And then the next email from Mr. Orlowski is dated April the 20th. I reached out to VDOT, asked the question, if we postponed the rural road share program, what would happen? VDOT would have to deallocate the funds they set aside for the current proposed projects we have, and we would have to reapply in a year or 2, most likely 2. There are no guarantees if the program will be funded in a year or 2. Some folks, rumor mill, said they were told by some individuals the county would not be able to reapply for 6 years. That rumor is not true, so I thought best to check it out myself. So, in the best interest of the community and the efforts by Robert Childress and the local Virginia Department of Transportation, I am now in favor of passing the road share. But please, POSF Inc., post your minutes. So in response to Mr. Orlowski's latest email from yesterday, changing his opposition to support, Ralph Rinaldi, the chairman of the Property Owners Shenandoah Farms Board, provided the following response. To all, and he addressed the Board of Supervisors, please read the forwarded message from Dale/Nancy. I'm wondering how many people they have influenced during the last 30 or so days during this budget process. How many no's were received, and in the 11th hour, this comes out. Now I hope you all can see what Bob, myself, and POSF staff have been putting up with for years. Just think of the wasted man-hours involved, both yours and ours. Please pass the full funding for the sanitary district. Please factor out the too good to be true or beyond belief information posted by the uninformed and pass our request. Between Bob and the POSF, we have a real understanding of the district. Thank you. Next, I have 5 emails from the McDonough household. I have 3 from Linda and 2 from Raymond, and they reside at 1205 High Top Road in Linden. Linda McDonough, April 15th. Here we go again, same old non-information and backlashing as always. I am sure 2 of the board and some of the POSF Inc. board members remember 2005 to 2010. If you need a history lesson, you can find this information at the board meeting minutes for those years. But here we are again, just 10 years later. All these years I have just wanted transparency with my POSF tax money. POSF Inc. is a remarkable community. We are not a POA or HOA. Membership is not mandatory. POSF board represents members only. Why? Because you have to sign a membership form to vote. I am not a member, so POSF board does not represent me or other property owners that don't sign the membership form. The facts are, 1. POSF Board could have informed non-members of proposed Sanitary District tax increase via mail, social media, etc. in December 2019. 2. POSF Board could have informed non-members in January 2020 after they advised the Board of the proposed Sanitary District tax increase. 3. Property owners of Shenandoah Farms Board has had ample opportunity to inform non-members and members but chose not to. 4. The property owners of Shenandoah Farms Board sent a letter to residents that signed the petition for the increase in March 2020, telling them to send emails to the board or the deputy clerk. 5. The property owners of Shenandoah Farms Board sent a letter to members and non-members on April 6, 2020, informing us of only some capital improvement and road revenue projects that were voted on in January 2020. 6. The same letter also backlashes members and non-members that disapprove of their vision of our community. 7. The POSF Board has again proven that they only give information to members and non-members when they are pushed to do so. 8. POSF Board could withdraw the proposed Sanitary District tax increase to the Board due to the pandemic that's facing our country. 9. The POSF Board is spreading fear of losing POSF's spot in road revenue projects with the county and the state. So in light of these facts, I vote no to the POSF Sanitary District tax increase. Her next email is April the 19th. I hope this finds all of you healthy and safe. After viewing the Board of Supervisors public hearing on YouTube Live on April 14th, I was shocked by the butchering of comments during the public presentation period. Ms. Ciarrocchi read the for and against school budget letters and emails with passion. When it came time for the property owners of Shenandoah Farms Inc. public presentation comment period about the tax increase for and against letters, emails, and phone calls, the chair, Mr. Mabe, interrupted Ms. Ciarrocchi and said something to the effect of, "There are a lot of these emails disagreeing, so you just pick and choose which ones you want to read and how you read them." I looked for the board meeting minutes to get an accurate account, but I was unable to locate them. They're not done yet. Not one objection from any board member. You all just sat there silently watching the omission of our written responses while I watched Ms. Ciarrocchi flip page after page over, not presenting the constituents' emotions of the tax increase. It became very apparent to me that not being physically present to voice our emails, letters, or phone calls, we were not given the opportunity to inform the public or the media or the board of our constitutional rights for freedom of speech. Just because the constituents couldn't be physically present, you all silenced us. You gave us no voice. You threw away our First Amendment rights. This is unjust. Everyone that submitted their ideas would have stood before you to put on record their opinion without interruption. By not reading every email, letter, and phone call, our views were not physically recorded. Our views were not physically voiced, recorded only in print. This was completely unanticipated. Everyone that submitted an opinion expected it to be read out loud live. All of us constituents that took our time to acknowledge the 2020-2021 budget proposal were thrown to the curb. I would like to request that this will be rectified by the next Board of Supervisors meeting. Read every written word from emails, letters, and phone calls that were submitted for the April 14th and April 21st public budget hearing, also filling your obligation to us, the public, by reading this and any other written or verbal consent to the Board of Supervisors, public, and media. Thank you for respecting me to voice physically in writing my constitutional rights. Her next email is April 21st. Good day to you all. I hope you, the Board of Supervisors, and all present are healthy and safe. It is my constitutional right to stand before you to voice my concerns to be recorded into Warren County Board of Supervisors meeting minutes about the POSF Inc. Sanitary District tax money or any other interests I have regarding Warren County. Due to the pandemic that our country is facing, attending Board of Supervisors meetings are suspended. Our only choice is to describe concerns in an email, letter, or phone call. It is the duty of the board to us, your constituents, to read aloud live at a public meeting every correspondence you have received. On April 14th, I was watching the Board of Supervisors public hearing on YouTube about the 2020-2021 budget. While I was listening, I heard Mr. Mabe ask Mr. Stanley, "Is the POSF Inc. a POA?" Mr. Stanley replied, "Yes." Once again, Mr. Stanley's guidance is wrong. POSF Inc. is not a POA or HOA. We are property owners of Shenandoah Farms Incorporated. Mr. Stanley has for years continued to spread this bogus information to the board. I have been involved with this issue and many others for years now. Around 2005 or so, I reviewed the Warren County Capital Improvement Plan, the EDA, Warren County Planning Committee, and POSF Inc. are all wrapped up in this vision they have for our county and my community. I have been participating in board meetings for years, and for a few years at the POSF Inc. meetings. I and other property owners did research, compiled the data, and shared it with POSF Inc. Board and the Board of Supervisors. I believe that the POSF Inc. Board and Mr. Stanley do not understand this and continue to guide/misinform the property owners and the Board of Supervisors. I am not against road improvements, just be practical about it. From 2005 to 2010, POSF Inc. had a road study done at the request/guidance of Mr. Stanley. Then stop, yield, downhill grade signs popped up throughout our mountain roads. I asked the question who chose the sign placements. Mr. Stanley said VDOT recommended the sign placements. What the heck? Why does VDOT have any control concerning our mountain roads? Our roads are private. Under Mr. Stanley's guidance to the POSF Advisory Board, state road revenue projects have popped up all through our community, claiming that turning our roads over to the state is the best, cheapest, never have to put money in roads again, only way to do our road upgrades. Every year at budget time, if I and others question road projects, they cry, if we don't raise POSF Inc. Sanitary District taxes, then VDOT will dump us off the list and it will take longer to get back in line. From the beginning of this process, I and others have disagreed with this vision. Again, research was done and compiled and brought before the board about costs on this topic. When the board contracted the POSF board to be the advisory board, our POSF Inc. taxes have risen almost every year. Unimproved lots jump up to the same as improved, and then both jump up again at this budget time. The largest tax hike since 1997, if approved. In 10 years, only 5 miles of road have been piecemealed into state roads. 5 miles in 10 years. It will take 60 years and longer to bring our already maintained roads to state standards. Remember, there are miles of plotted roads that have never been maintained. Bringing our roads up to VDOT standards is too slow and costly. Just moving VDOT road equipment to and from Phase 1 to Phase 1 in another area, then back and forth for Phase 2, 3, and 4, etc., is very costly. POSF Inc. Advisory Board has had plenty of opportunity to give the facts, not opinions, to us POSF Inc. owners. They have social media, the webpage, letters, etc. Property owners have had a problem with being informed about our community for many years. When facts hit social media in early April 2020 about the Sanitary District tax increase, the POSF Inc. Advisory Board jumps to action. Updated the webpage, allowed a survey to be created, collected petition signatures for yes only for the Sanitary District increase, sent letters only to POSF Inc. owners that signed the petition. Letter was about the Board of Supervisors April 14th meeting, send emails. Then they sent a 3-page letter to all property owners full of opinion, bashing property owners that use social media to inform other property owners, pushing misinformation and fear-mongering. I have this letter. Just the facts, please. This proves that they have the talent to get information out, but only if only pushed by us property owners. My argument has been, why can't POSF Inc. Advisory Board inform us of decisions that they are making? Also, I believe it would benefit our property owner community more by getting estimates from licensed road contractors so we can determine the cost of paving to keep our roads private. Smaller communities have been able to accomplish this, so why can't we at least try? Next is from Mr. Raymond McDonough. While watching the county meeting on TV, I was appalled at the way the letters were read. The missives in favor of the increase of taxes were read in their entirety, while the letters against, mine included, were abridged. That's not true. I read all of them abridged. If I was present at the meeting, there would have been a lot more opinion displayed relevant to the topic of the county meeting. Censoring the letters is a sure way for us to not trust the government and a cheesy way to advance your money-grabbing agenda. My advice, don't. Next is, again, Mr. Raymond McDonough. After viewing the county meeting and listening to Mr. Stanley's response on POSF Inc., I was dismayed at his response that POSF Inc. was a POA. POSF Inc. is not a POA, it is incorporated. We don't need traffic signs warning of steep grades. We live here. We get it. Guardrails for $1 million? All that does is inhibit snow removal and cause the idiots who don't know how to travel in inclement weather to bottleneck egress for those who do. Who in the expletive thinks of this stupidity? Fire them. This is yet another reason why I disagree with POSF Inc. tax increase when the board treats our area as a cash cow. I once stated that our POSF Inc. advisory board agreement was a deal with the devil. Mr. Childress, now you know what I meant. Next is an email from Charles and Connie Webb of 270 Fellows Drive. I'm emailing you to let you know that my wife and I are in favor of the proposed sanitary tax district increase of $45 per improved lot, $305 to $350. I am willing to pay the increase for my improved lot so the new monies collected may be used for the designated road projects in Shenandoah Farms, which roads in turn will be taken under Warren County's jurisdiction when the road projects are brought up to Warren County standards. My road on Fellows Drive was completed 4 or 5 years ago, and it has really been a blessing to have no more potholes, no more dust, and no more mud. Plus, the county has taken over all maintenance and snow removal on Fellows Drive. I could vote no to the increase, as I am sure some selfish people probably have as they drive over their smoothed, paved roads every day on their way to work or to go shopping or wherever. For the little cost per year out of my pocket for my improved lot so other folks throughout Shenandoah Farms can enjoy a nice, well-cared-for road up to their residence like I have enjoyed for the last 5 years, I find it as unselfish money well spent. Next is Mike Yount, property owner of 158 Gales Lane. I would have responded earlier, but my mailing address in your systems was incorrect, and I just got the POSF letter. I had the address corrected yesterday. If not too late, I would have supported the proposed increase in the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District. I hope you and your team are staying safe. Next are 2 emails from Melissa Chapelwhite of 140 Dogwood Farm Road. I am a constituent and resident of the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District. Earlier, I sent in a comment against the proposed fee increase on the ground that we need a change in county administration and our local POSF board first. She actually signed the petition in favor of the increase, and her email was also in favor of the increase, just to let you know. Since then, I've been going over expenditure reports, capital improvement plans, and other Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District documentation posted on the county website. Adding up all the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District excess income over expenses for the 10 years since the county took over the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District management, I find a total of around $3 million that was set aside and specifically dedicated to the future needs of the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District. This is more than enough to cover the entire cost of all 20 projects listed in the current proposed capital improvement plan. I've posted the detailed figures this morning on our Nextdoor webpage if you have access to that. If not, let me know and I'll invite you to join. This matter needs investigation and perhaps a forensic audit because neither the county expenditure reports nor the capital improvement plans show running carryover totals for these monies, nor discuss using it to fund our capital improvement plans. Our sanitary district has the right to competent management and accounting for our funds. Yet while this $3 million sits somewhere set aside, they are claiming we don't have the money to pay for our road projects and using that as justification for seeking an increase in the fees we have to pay. Please vote no on any fee increase until the matter of our missing $3 million is fully investigated and resolved. And she followed that up with a second email a few days later. I posted the below email on our neighborhood website and asked if anyone knew of accounting for our $3 million set aside in the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District. No one replied that they were aware of any accounting, but a number of other responses were posted, attacking me personally for raising the issue. So that pretty much answers the question, and it seemed nothing further would be gained from my continued participation in the neighborhood website. I would welcome the opportunity to meet with you at your convenience to go over the figures and documentation regarding this issue. Clearly, an increase in our sanitary district fees is unwarranted at this time. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. So in response to Ms. Chapelwhite's original email, at the request of Chairman Mabe, Mr. Childress provided the following response. Good afternoon. I've known Ms. Chapelwhite and have been dealing with her over the past 10 years. She asks a valid question about the excess Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District funds and where they are. At the end of each fiscal year, once our audit has been completed, we post a final expenditure report on the county/Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District website. This is due largely to Ms. Chapelwhite's input when we first took over operations in the district. The final expenditure report tallies any underspent line items in the operational budget, additional unexpected tax collections, and any revenues. As Ms. Chapelwhite mentions, these funds are set aside and specifically dedicated to the future needs of the Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District. This statement is included on each financial expenditure report. I've pulled the final expenditure reports which have been posted over the last 9 years, and the funding totals $2.467 million. At the conclusion of each fiscal year, these funds are moved into our Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District Special Project Funds account after approval by the Board of Supervisors. They accumulate from year to year and are used for major expenses in the district, such as capital improvement projects, including rural addition paving projects funded through VDOT's revenue sharing program, which the district is responsible for 25% of the costs, internally funded projects such as cul-de-sac construction, and major equipment purchases, etc. As an example, since taking over operations in the district, we have used approximately $765,241 of this funding to pay for the district's share of 15 rural addition paving projects. Over the past couple of years, we have also used $155,766 of this funding to purchase a backhoe and motor grader, which are used in our roadway maintenance operations. These two examples alone add up to almost $1 million. Again, each time funding is taken from special projects for these types of larger expenses, the Board of Supervisors approves the appropriation. The Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District currently has $1,517,971.13 set aside in their special project account, allocated in varying amounts for the VDOT revenue sharing projects, internal improvement projects, maintenance building/site, equipment, and an emergency reserve. Except for the emergency reserved funds, which are set aside for unexpected costs as a result of natural disasters, dam repairs, etc., the majority of this funding is set aside for specific purposes or purchases. $573,194 is earmarked specifically to cover the district's 25% share of VDOT revenue sharing projects. Unfortunately, this is not sufficient to cover the cost of the Tomahawk Way project we just recently completed, and the 3 projects we currently have under development. We still have a deficit of $255,584 on these projects, which I'm hopeful of making up over the next couple of years. $181,601 we have set aside for internal projects for the Huck Finn paving and other internally funded projects we have tentatively scheduled for the next year. $575,000 is set aside for the maintenance building, which will be an approximately $1 million project, which we are hopeful of getting started within the next couple of years. Lastly, $88,174 we have set aside for equipment purchases that can be used in short order if needed due to major equipment failures or replacements. One of our utility trucks is 17 years old and starting to generate significant maintenance repair costs. Replacing a truck such as this and having it outfitted for snow removal can easily approach $75,000, and there is also $100,000 in emergency reserves. While $1.5 million is a considerable amount of funding set aside in our special projects account, approximately 50% of it is set aside for projects identified in the current capital improvement plan. The remaining funds are set aside for non-capital improvement plan projects and costs which are important to the POSF board. Working with the POSF board over the years, they have taken a very frugal and pay-as-you-go approach to projects. We have been methodically setting aside funds for major projects over the years. The funding set aside for the maintenance building is a prime example, and having an emergency reserve is just sound business practice. As you know from attending POSF board meetings, I routinely update them on the status of their special project fund balances. I will be happy to answer any questions or speak with Ms. Chapelwhite, as I have numerous times about this over the years. Next is D Schools of 467 Freeze Road. I just wanted to express my disappointment in how my letter was read to the public on April 14th. It was hacked up and read in pieces instead of being read in its entirety. Not even my "thank you for your time and consideration" was read. If a normal public hearing was held, I would have had a chance to read the whole letter with its attachments that weren't even mentioned. I didn't spend all of that time on my letter just to have it read in pieces. YouTube wouldn't even let me comment on anything until the end of the presentation. If you were going to choose what got read and what didn't, then I really wish you wouldn't have read my letter at all. I did speak to the people who told me that the survey was closed. Apparently, they both went and looked at it, and when they tried to go back into the system yesterday to complete the survey, it wouldn't let them. I really don't know what the problem was, but I have told them both to reach out and express their concerns about what happened. I do thank you for your time and consideration, especially during these hard times. I also wish you all well and hope you and your families are healthy and well. Finally, we have emails from Eldon and Joanne Marshall of 79 Lake Drive. I love living here, but I know the commute here can be less than desirable. More young professionals are looking at locations in Front Royal, willing to sacrifice time in the car for a better living situation, but certain things within our control are not allowing for a smooth transition. One of my major concerns about moving to the Shenandoah Farms community was the poor state of the roads. It was almost a deal breaker. I live on Lake Drive and it is a nightmare to say the least. Without getting into the dangers and potential hazards, especially during the winter, I know it's been a deal breaker for other hungry, motivated, and interested young professionals looking to revitalize our beautiful community and make Front Royal their new home. Making the investment into infrastructure will yield dividends for years to come and will begin almost immediately. I appreciate your time and hope you are staying well and healthy. Please reach out with any questions.
Thank you, Emily. Now, all of those will be placed on the website.
Yes, I will update the April 21st agenda with all of these.
Okay, and all of the ones that were done last time
They are in the
they're
current
already
packet.
in the current packet.
Yes.
So anybody that wants to read any of the for or against can see those.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that you can see or that has brought anything forward that would like to say anything?
Nobody else has, well, there was one comment, but it was retracted. So I have nobody else in the YouTube comment section. And I do apologize, it's past 7:30, which is the public hearing time. I tried to read as fast as I could.
I know you did. Is there anyone else that you could think of that may want to speak? Final call. If not, go ahead.
Linda McDonough just commented, excuse me, this is the public presentation period time, not for question answer. Why was Childress answer? Oh, that was an email provided prior to the public comment period, so that was not in the question and answer period. That was prior to this meeting, which is why I read it.
It was part of the conversation back and forth in the email.
Correct.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Messenger said I would love for my original letter to be read, but that is included in this packet and was part of the April 14th meeting.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that when we had this, the budget public hearing last Tuesday, I thought it was agreed that we would let Emily read all the comments, and then halfway through, the chairman, in his infinite wisdom, he wanted her to do a synopsis, and it actually did catch me off guard. And there again, I did not speak up, and neither did any of the other board members, but I thought and felt that we should have let everybody emails be read. So, Mr. Mabe, would you like to explain that?
Simply put, the decision that I made at the last board meeting was to move the meeting along. We had positives and we had negatives. And there was no intent in any way, shape, or form for them to be abbreviated to the point to where there was not concern showing positive or negativity. That was all that it was about. Hindsight is always 20/20. So in saying that, that won't happen again. Thank you, Mr. Carter, for bringing that forward.
Yeah. It's easy to say you're sorry, but the best way to say you're sorry is not to let it happen again. And that's only my feeling right there. And it should not have been, because these people, they took the time to compose an email, and it should have been read. If it had been a regular meeting, we could have said, anybody agrees with the previous speaker, they could have done that. So there again, I just go on the record saying I think that was a huge mistake.
Noted, sir. Thank you very much. And they can go on the website and read every one of the comments and every one of the emails.
That's not the same thing.
You're absolutely right, sir, but that's where they are.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I know this is not a question and answer period, but addressing one of the numbers that was written on in the Emily or to our board. It mentioned some finances like $3 million. And do we know that these numbers that we're hearing, the amount of money that's being held by the Shenandoah farms, do they seem to be accurate numbers?
So I believe from Mr. Childress's email that I read out, the $3 million was not an accurate number. It is actually about 1.5 million, and those were the figures that I broke out in the email.
Okay, so it's actually closer to 1.5.
It is, yeah, it's 1.5 million, and
Yeah.
50% of that is specifically set aside and allocated for projects that are in the current Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District Capital Improvement Plan.
Okay, I appreciate you letting me find out about that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would care to speak?
Mr. Messenger would really like me to read his experience going door to door and asking for petition signatures from last week's meeting.
Is that an easy thing that you can find?
Gosh, I hope I did it alphabetically. Yes. So this is from Ryan Messenger of 363 Wendy Hill Road.
Did you cover up your microphone?
Did I cover it? Oh, I did cover up my microphone. This is from Ryan Messenger, 363 Wendy Hill Road. I was one of the people who sacrificed their personal time to go around and speak to neighbors within the farms and collect names of those in support. I wanted to share that story with you. I started by going to my closest neighbors. This was easy as I already had a relationship with them and knew most of them would like to see the roads improved. The first neighbor even stated, I'd write a check for my entire share right now. As I continued and started to get to strangers' homes, I started having to introduce myself and explain what this was all about. I would start with, hi, I'm Ryan Messenger, one of your neighbors who lives over on Wendy Hill. I wanted to talk to you about raising the sanitary district fee. As you can imagine, this would sometimes have quick and emotional reactions. I received responses like, F no, I ain't giving more money. What's that? And why? When are they going to pave the road? Or I would get yelled at from a window, what the heck is that? Do I owe money or something? It was an interesting endeavor to say the least. However, after having a conversation outlining the plan and often going over some of the history of the farms and the sanitary district, they would choose to write their name in support, including the F no guy. So that was his experience going door to door.
Thank you, Emily. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak that you can tell?
No one who has general comments. There is a question regarding the building in Shenandoah Farms that I mentioned, but that is the proposed Shenandoah Farms maintenance building as well as the proposed convenience site. But no one else.
Then we can consider the general public comment period is now closed.
That's the agenda, public comment period, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Next thing on our agenda is the reports from the board members and the county administrator and county attorney.
Mr. Chair, do you want to skip ahead to pick up that one public hearing we had on
Yeah, we can.
item I?
Yeah. We've got a public hearing on the conditional use permit 2020-2-01, Joseph W. Coleman for a short-term tourist rental. Taryn Logan.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is a request from Mr. Coleman for a conditional use permit for a short-term tourist rental. The property is located at 37 Wellspring Road, which is off of Goonie Manor Loop, identified on tax map number 44 as lot 28, zoned agricultural and in the South River Magisterial District. In your package, you have the applicant's statement of justification, and he states that he and his family recently purchased the property as an investment property and their one-day home to enjoy the beauty of the area. In my staff report in your package, I went through all the supplemental regulations in our zoning ordinance for a short-term tourist rental. The closest dwelling is approximately 150 feet to the northwest, so it does meet all the setback requirements to adjacent dwellings. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this conditional use permit at their March meeting with the following conditions. The applicant shall comply with all Warren County Health Department regulations and requirements, and the maximum number of occupants shall not exceed 2 as determined by the Health Department permit for a 2-bedroom dwelling. And the applicant shall have the well water tested annually for E. coli and coliform bacteria, and a copy of the results shall be submitted to the Planning and Health Department. All adjacent property owners were notified and the public hearing was properly advertised. And I'm happy to answer any questions. The property manager for this dwelling is actually the closest neighbor to him as well. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions. And we did not have anyone speak at the Planning Commission public hearing on this. Those minutes are in your packet.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional comment?
I have one, if you will. It's the proposed use of the property, item number 9, number of full-time employees, initially none, but eventually 2. Why would they need to have full-time employees for short-term rental?
Was that on? He is not going to have any employees. I think that was in his application. There's just the property manager who's going to be taking care of the dwelling for him, and that's his closest neighbor. And then he lives in Northern Virginia, so.
It sounds like those
But
two is
there are
basically
not
him.
any employees now.
Sharon, maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like those 2 employees is him and
Okay.
the
And then the property
and
manager.
the
All right.
property manager.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That could be.
Any additional comments or concerns? Delores, or Tony? Okay, do we have a motion?
We have to officially open, we still got to officially open the hearing, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know if Emily's getting any comments in or not, but
Nobody had submitted comments, but you can.
we still need to
the
go through the hearing process, if we open and
You have
close
to
it.
open the public hearing for it.
Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing on this conditional use permit 2020-02-01 for Joseph W. Coleman for short-term tourist rental. Do I hear?
Nobody submitted comments regarding this, so I have no input for the public hearing.
Okay, so we can consider the public hearing closed. Now, do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the conditional use permit request of Joseph W. Coleman for a short-term tourist rental with the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Oh, roll call, please. Emily?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approved.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Darren.
Now we
Yes,
can,
sir.
now we can go back.
Sir. Back to
Thank you.
reports.
Back to reports. Tony, do you have anything to report?
Nothing that I already said. Thank you, sir.
Delores?
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Yes, I would like to speak to what Tony addressed before, and I would like to just remind everybody that we're in a state of emergency, something that no one has ever experienced before, and we're really trying to do our best, I think, to meet all the requirements, and I think that your mistake, Mr. Chairman, was an honest one, and we weren't trying to hurt anyone's freedom of speech. And, you know, frankly, we apologize. We realized it was a mistake afterwards. But I just ask for a little grace because it's not easy meeting virtually. It's very, very challenging, and we're still trying to work our way through it. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Archie?
Don't have a report, but I will state that I'll get a haircut when the barber shop's open.
You and me both, sir. Mrs. Cullors?
Well, first, the week of April 12th through the 18th was National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. So I'd just like to thank all of our 911 dispatchers for their dedication and service to the community. I also would like to extend, I've already sent emails apologizing for not verbalizing that we should have read their emails for the public hearing as of last week. So I'd like to say that again for those who didn't get an email from me, that I do apologize. As Mrs. Oates said, this is being new to the board, getting used to the protocol and so forth is a challenge. The extra challenge is the virtual of it. So I do apologize. And I'd also like to say there's been concern of coming to the meeting and the number of us here. I don't have good enough service at my home to do that, so I want to assure everyone that I do take precautions. I wear my mask. I've got my hand sanitizer here. I'm doing all I can to make sure that I protect myself and others. When I go home, I do all the protocol before going into the house and taking risks with my family, but I feel it's important to me to make sure I represent the people of my district that elected me to do this. And I don't want to take the chance of not being able to do that virtually because of my poor service. My goal is to try to get broadband to South River District, so this is proof I'm working, guys. And I want you all to know that all of the supervisors, Mr. Mabe is doing a wonderful job of representing us during the meetings with the COVID. But I want you all to know that all 5 of us are working diligently as we can. If we're not as visible, it's because if Mr. Mabe gets sick, then we have to go down the line, and we can't all get sick at the same time, that's for sure. But we are all being diligent and trying to do the best we can for the people in the county. And I think that's all I have.
Well, just to let everybody know, I did make a mistake and I apologize for it. And I just want to also to let everybody know that I've been in the government center every day. I talked to everybody that would be willing to talk to me. I visited people that I wanted to talk to with my mask on, with my sanitizer, and I've been out there. And I'm going to continue to do that. And I hope that I don't get sick, and I don't believe that I will, but I'm taking the precautions that the governor has asked us to take. Emergency management meetings are key. EDA meetings are key. And any other meeting that we have to or feel that we should go to are keys in my book. And so I'm always there. So I appreciate Mr. Carter's comments. And I just want everybody to know that we're all doing what we can. This is all new. It's not going to be easy. And it's going to continue to get more challenging as we go until this thing goes away. So that's all that I have right now. County Administrator, Mr. Stanley.
Should pass one down to Emily. So I copy my report. I'm sorry for those others in the room. I don't have enough hard copies. Delores and Tony, I think I emailed you a copy. As far as the coronavirus update, county staff continue to monitor the situation and take necessary precautions. Governor Northern has extended Executive Order 53, which is now pushed out to May 8th, 2020. The county remains open for business but closed to the general public. County staff are encouraging our citizens to limit visits to county facilities, and most of our departments are utilizing work from home and telework options where appropriate. Our staff has adapted to the crisis very well and are doing things to support each other, to support the town and the community. Some things we have not done in the past. Some examples include the county sheriff and town police chief have established a public safety advisory group. Fire and rescue or fit testing county and town employees of personal protective equipment. And I'd also add, I got to thank you from Manassas Park. We fit tested some of their staff as well. Planning Department is taking the lead for coordinating reimbursable COVID-19 related expenses. Thank you, Taryn. School system continues food distribution to students throughout the county. Social Services is partnering with CCAP, distributing food twice a week from the 15th Street complex. Last week, they assisted a total of 29 individuals, two persons new to the CCAP program. Social Services is partnering with the Thermal Shelter, hosting and feeding guests 7 nights a week, and I think we're looking to bump that from 20 to 25 this week per night. Thanks to the town of Front Royal and town council last night, they gave us approval to bring in a shower trailer from Winchester to be able to hook up so that folks utilizing the thermal shelter will be able to take a shower at that facility. The school system continues to provide emergency child care for essential personnel. The town's established a COVID-19 helpline. There are available jobs within Warren County, both privately. I know I was out on Indeed looking last week. There's a number of jobs posted locally. The county website has a number of county jobs posted, along with the RSW Regional Jail. Again, they're all posted on our website and Facebook page, and we continue to encourage citizens and staff to practice preventive measures frequently. Wash your hands frequently. Don't touch your face. Wear a cloth face mask covering in public settings where other social distancing measures are difficult to maintain. For example, the grocery store and pharmacies. These 3 things alone will slow the spread of the virus and significantly reduce personal risk of infection. In the near term, stay home. Only leave your residence for essential reasons or for exercise per the governor's strict social distancing requirements. In the midterm, if you are a person under investigation or PUI or a confirmed COVID-19 patient, please respect the quarantine instructions from your physician for both you and your entire household. If you need assistance, reach out to your neighbors and friends. This is a great opportunity for all of us to come together as a community and support each other through the crisis. I had a call last week from one of our local banks that had concerns about somebody coming through the drive-through line that apparently had the COVID. And again, that does not meet the direction from our physicians. Long-term, support local businesses as much as possible. This could make the difference between the business surviving the crisis or having to close permanently. It's great to see a lot of businesses readapting their business model to do curbside pickup, delivery, or online ordering. Bottom line, we're all in this for the long haul. Expect the effects of the virus to last through the summer. We're continuing to watch all the different models. I know the University of Washington model has us peaking out here in the next week in Virginia. We'll be a week or two behind that because Warren County is behind Northern Virginia. If you look at the University of Virginia model, it has us peaking much later into June. And so we'll have to see over the next several weeks how this plays out, but continue to follow the guidance that's given. I want to express thanks to the chairman, who's our emergency coordinator, also Rick Farrell and Chief Mabe from the Fire and Rescue Department, and all the members of our emergency response team on their preparation efforts. Those efforts are paying dividends and allow this community to be flexible and prepared for what's to come. On a positive note, building permits for new home construction. We had 35 new home starts for the first quarter of the year, and that was up 2 over the first quarter of 2019. Even the March permits were up over last year. We hope this continues. That shows signs that our economy is still strong and moving forward. Warren County has received notification from the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, that Warren County has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our FY20 budget. This is the 10th consecutive year that we've been recognized by the GFOA for our budget. It's a tremendous honor and the direct result of the continued efforts put forth by our finance consultants, Andre Fletcher and Carolyn Stimmel, and Administrative Assistant Connie Oden. Development Review Committee, no meeting in March. They will be meeting by teleconference or Zoom tomorrow at 10 a.m. Wayfinding Signage Project, Frazier and Associates have completed the updates on VDOT's comments. County and town staff have approved the changes, and they've been resubmitted to VDOT for review and approval. As far as the sign designs go, there were not any changes, but rather clarification on the total square foot of gateway sign panels and ensuring the radii of the Trailblazers meet the required specification on VDOT's manuals. County staff will be working with Frazier the next steps, which will be bidding the work and moving forward with construction of at least the phase from I-66 to downtown, which is part of the CDBG funding. Fire and rescue grants. The county has received application notice from the SAFER grant for fire and rescue staffing. The grant is due May 15. County staff previously completed and submitted an application to FEMA's Assisted Firefighters Grant. We look forward to hopefully getting some good news on that in the coming months. Parks and Recreation, congratulations to Jonathan Clatterbuck, Warren County Park and Rec Equipment Operator, for passing the Certified Playground Safety Inspectors course last month. Jonathan is now certified to inspect Warren County and Warren County Public Schools playgrounds. Tourism Committee, they will also meet by Zoom on April 29th at 3 p.m. Rivermont Fire Station is about 55% complete based on billing through March, and still expected to be completed by fall of 2020. Lastly, just wanted to report that the Boroughbrooks Music Playground staff is out there. We've got our final swing set replacement going on this week, and hopefully we'll be done. And so once the governor lifts some restrictions, we're able to open back up. The kids will have a new place, enhanced playground to play in the South River District. With that, no additional comments unless there are any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Comments or concerns from anyone? Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Mr. Ham, do you have anything for us?
I don't.
Thank you very much. Next thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes for the regular meeting on March 17th, 2020. Are there any additions or deletions from those minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 17th, 2020 as amended?
I move we accept as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter? Paging Mr. Carter.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can hear you.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Hear you now. Thank
I
you.
was on the phone and muted and all that other stuff, and then I was whatever. Anyway, yes,
Thank
I
you.
agree with the
Okay. Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the special meeting on March 24th, 2020. Are there any additions or deletions to that? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of March 24th, 2020 as amended?
Move we approve the minutes of March 24th.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Could I get a roll call, please? Emily?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
aye.
Motion carries. Next we have is the appropriations and transfers. Do we have a motion?
Move to accept the appropriation and transfers as is.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Next thing on our agenda is the approval of the accounts. Do we have a motion?
I'll move we approve the accounts.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Emily.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
C.
Motion carries. Next item is our consent agenda. That's H. Are there any items to be pulled for further discussion?
I'd like to see us pull 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Two, 3, 4, and 5. So the adoption for the building safety, adoption of resolution proclaiming May 2020 as Building Safety Month by David Beam.
Number 2, I think you're on number 1. Is that,
Number 1 would be the only one left on the consent.
Yeah, item number 1's the only one left.
okay.
Mr. Beam, are you available?
No, so the consent agenda is just adopted as an
That's what
item.
pulled
It doesn't
out,
have to be presented by
Okay.
the individual.
Could I get a motion, please?
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda with the exception of pulling 2, 3, 4, and 5 from the agenda for discussion.
Any discussion? A roll call, please, Emily.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Okay, how do we do these?
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and take number 2. The Chairman of the Board of Supervisors has declared a local emergency during the current COVID-19 pandemic, and we've experienced widespread closures, social distancing, and recommendations to avoid public gatherings, which have created excess burdens upon the individuals and businesses of the county. In order to provide additional time for individuals and businesses to pay certain taxes without penalty, interest, and collection activities because of the emergency, the Treasurer, Commissioner of the Revenue, and I are recommending: first, the penalty for late payment of real estate, personal property, and machinery and tools taxes not be imposed until August 6, 2020. On August 6, 2020, a penalty of 10% or $10, whichever is greater of the amount of such taxes, which should not have been paid, shall be imposed, provided that in no case may the penalty exceed the amount of tax payable. 2, the interest imposed on the late payment of these taxes shall be 0% until August 6, 2020. After August 6, 2020, interest shall accrue upon such taxes and any penalties imposed thereon at a rate of 10% per annum. 3, the provisions of the ordinance shall apply only to real estate, personal property, machinery, and tools taxes that first became due on June 5th of 2020. Next, the provisions of the ordinance shall supersede any conflicting provisions of the Warren County Code that apply to such taxes, including without limitation Warren County Code Section 160-26. And lastly, the passage of the ordinance shall be effective immediately. The cost of financing, reduction of revenue for 2 months, and loss of interest and penalties for real estate, personal property, and machinery and tools for that 60-day period. Mr. Chairman, just in addition, our sister county over in Shenandoah, Mr. Ham represents them as well. They did a almost identical ordinance. The reason for 60 is for our current fiscal year, revenue is counted that's collected past 60 days past the end of the fiscal year. So revenue collected up through June 30th. It's imperative that we not move the due date and extend the no penalty interest period only so far as that we hopefully still collect within the current fiscal year without significantly impacting our current budget. So that's why we're say 60 versus 90. 90 would push it outside that 60-day window. And talking with our auditor, that's what everybody's trying to stay away from because of the GASB accounting rules. But we do want to try to, I know the The treasurer is listening in. Jamie and I had talked, and Sharon and I had talked, and we're trying to be as responsive as we can, but still be, prudent as far as the financial condition of the county.
So the expectation is that people that are able to pay on time and those that are not penalized until August 6th.
The reality is, especially for real estate, so many of us pay through our escrow with our taxes. And those banks, the due date will be on June 5th. For those that maybe it's their vehicles, but they can't afford to pay for a couple months, that'll give some additional time for us to hopefully come out of this and give them a little more time to put that money together to be able to pay their tax bill.
How did we come up with the 10%?
The 10%, that's under state code. That's the current code requirements. That's not changed. The only thing is changing is we pushed the date
Right.
from basically June 6th to August 6th.
And we can't change the 10%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that, well, I'd like to say two things. First of all, Shenandoah County, I think, probably will pass something very similar to this. They have not actually done it yet. They just had their authorization to advertise it. And I'm not sure that's right on the 10%. I think that's the maximum you can do, but I don't have the code section right in front of me. But that is what your current county code says, and it has said that for many years. So this is basically kicking everything down for 60 days to give people a chance to raise some extra money. And the thought also, at least as far as real estate taxes go, the due date has not changed. So any escrow holder still has a due date of June 5th and would be expected to pay that. Our law is you're supposed to pay by June 5th. It just, we have set the penalties at less, with the thought being that would reduce the cash flow crunch that you might experience. Obviously, there probably still will create some cash flow issues, but hopefully that issue would minimize it.
Well, to ask the question again, Mr. Ham, is 10% the golden rule for us to do this, or can we do less?
I think I need a couple of minutes to figure that out. I let you know in a minute. Let me have a look.
Thank you.
My concern too would be all the other delinquents out there, prior years. Anything else do you have to suspend if you start changing the interest rate? Does that impact you during that?
I'm sure in some cases it's going to impact us, but I also realize that if we still got the due date and we still got the dollars that they're going to have to pay, and we throw another 10% on them,
Well, the 10% won't kick in until after the 60 days.
I get that. I get that.
Well, it says
I would just
10%.
say that I don't do y'all's tax collection work, but we do the tax collection work for Shenandoah County. And I think Doug raises a really good point. That's going to be quite the minefield for whoever's doing your tax collection work off into the future, that sometimes it's 10% or it is 10% for all time, and then for this 2-month period it's different, or whatever else you might choose.
Well, I just look at this pandemic thing that we're going through now as not being a norm, and I just don't want the impact to hurt everybody.
Well, I think the easy thing is we're going to have a public hearing on this. You could always you could adjust that at the point after the public hearing, but you've at least got to get to the public hearing.
Okay.
So, Mr. Stanley, I have a question. If what this resolution is basically saying is the due date is still June 5th, but you will not be charged penalties and or that 10% until August 6th.
That's correct.
Should you not pay it? So there's no interest accruing
Correct.
any time before that. And the 10% has been the standard for how many years?
At least 25 that I've been here. We'd have to go back low, but it's been a long time. It's been, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that, even though it may not be codified in that way, Mr. Ham, I think it's kind of the standard among, as far as I know, all the surrounding counties as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the Warren County Code, section 160-87 does specifically say 10% per annum.
Okay, then that answers that question. Do we need to move this to public hearing?
You ready for a motion?
Yes.
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the request to advertise the attached ordinance deferring penalties and interest on certain Warren County taxes for a public hearing to be held on May 19th of 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Emily.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Delores?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates? Ms. Oates? Oh, you're muted.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry,
Thank you.
I'm going back and forth between two screens. So forgive me.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is the authorization to advertise for public hearing the assuring continuity of government of Warren County, Virginia.
Jason, you want to take this one?
Sure. You have already passed this.
I think he dropped somehow.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't have him anymore. He dropped entirely.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and finish it. So, March 24, 2020, the board adopted emergency ordinance assuring continuity in the government of Warren County. The ordinance provides that meetings of the board and the county's other boards and commissions can be held electronically without having members of the public or the public physically present. The public comments may be provided via email or other electronic means and other matters. The emergency ordinance is valid for 60 days and needs to be formally adopted following a public hearing by the board to be extended for another 60 days. The board intends to enact the ordinance after considering public comments at its meeting on May 19 of 2020. Attached is the ordinance as adopted by the board on March 24th.
Do we have a motion?
You ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the advertisement of the proposed ordinance assuring continuity in the government of Warren County, Virginia for a public hearing to be held on May the 19th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion? Roll call, Emily?
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
He's still not back.
He said he's trying to get back in.
Motion carries. Item number 4, the authorization to advertise for public hearing Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District proposed 2021 capital improvement. Mr. Childers?
Thank you, Chairman Mabe. On July 1st, 2010, through mutual agreement with property owners of Shenandoah Farms, the POSF board, the county assumed maintenance responsibilities for the 42-mile road system and 2 dams within the sanitary district. Soon afterwards, the county initiated a comprehensive road and drainage study of the entire road system to inspect and evaluate the current infrastructure. Such a study was needed in order to help determine where the deficiencies are and to provide valuable resource information such as traffic counts, drainage calculations for the needed improvements. After much public input, the final road and drainage study was approved by the Board of Supervisors in October of 2012. With the approval of the road and drainage study, one of the primary goals was to establish an official capital improvement plan, or CIP, to help guide infrastructure improvements and upgrades throughout the district. The CIP serves as a roadmap for the future to maintain focus on where improvements should be made and to ensure the limited Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District funds are spent as wisely as possible. The first CIP was developed and adopted in the spring of 2013 after carefully considering the road and drainage study's findings, public input, traffic patterns and counts, the history of ongoing maintenance problems, and the desire and direction of the current and previous POSF boards. Furthermore, we kept a few simple goals in mind when developing the original CIP. We attempted to address any safety issues or hazards as soon as possible. We try to leverage as much funding, primarily through VDOT's revenue sharing program, as possible to upgrade roadways in order to turn them over to the state for maintenance. This should ultimately reduce the roadway mileage we maintain and thus the impacts on the Sanitary District's maintenance budget. 3, we attempt to focus improvements on higher volume roadways and more densely populated areas so as many residents as possible will benefit. And we address ongoing maintenance problem areas where routine maintenance replacement efforts simply do not address the issue. In order to assist us in the achievement of these goals, we've established a long-term focused approach to the upgrading of the roadways to turn over to VDOT. This included a prioritized network of some of the most heavily traveled roads with ongoing maintenance issues that would benefit the most residents. Having a network in place today gives us all something to work toward over the years to come. The CIP is generally reviewed and updated on an annual basis with the POSF board to ensure it is current and meets the needs of the Shenandoah Farms community. This past year, we were successful in completing Tomahawk Way Phase 2 Rural Addition Revenue Sharing Project and other internally funded projects. These completed projects have been removed from the draft plan that you have in your packet and new priorities added. The draft CIP was presented to the POSF board by myself earlier this year for input and consideration. As in past years, we've utilized the POSF board as an advisory group throughout the development and revision process. On January 23rd, 2020, the POSF board took official action to recommend approval of the draft CIP. A copy of the proposed Fiscal Year 2021 Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District CIP is included in your packet. It contains a total of 20 projects with a total estimated value of $7.375 million. There are 10 proposed rural addition projects which we funded jointly through VDOT's revenue sharing program at 50%, the county 25%, and the sanitary district budgets would cover the remaining 25%, and 10 other internal projects that will be funded entirely through the sanitary district budget and other sources. CIP as presented is not fully funded. However, we currently have approximately $546,751 set aside in special project fund balances and reserves, $53,000 in current fiscal year line item funds, and other revenues that we can apply to the current and future CIP projects. There's no cost or financing with any action you would take tonight. It's simply authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing at your next nightly meeting in May for public input on the plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Childers. Any questions, discussions?
Are advertising this CIP, is that what the proposed increase in their rates would cover?
Several of the projects in this draft plan, yes ma'am.
Yeah, 3 of them.
And there's 3 of them, but then some of them have already been, the money is set aside in there too?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
But by advertising the amount that you're making now, but that could be reduced if we so desired after the public hearing. Is that correct?
I'm not following you, Mr. Fox.
The amount that's being presented for the increase of the fees, that could be decreased, but it cannot be added, cannot be charged anymore.
Correct, but that's something you'll take up later tonight in your agenda, the actual tax rate.
Right.
This is just the CIP itself.
Okay.
With the estimated cost in them. But
Okay.
yes,
Right.
you're correct in what you're saying.
Delores or Tony, have any questions, concerns?
No, just kind of wondered how come. Oh, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
Delores, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Childress, can you tell me,
Coming in.
so earlier in the discussion, it was said that there was special funds and it was 2 points couple of $1 million, and then I guess after appropriations that had already been made, there was $1.5 million. Where does that amount of money play into what you just said about this improvement plan?
Okay, that money that we discussed earlier, that money set aside in the special project balances, a portion of that, and I believe it was around 50% of that money that we have set aside, will go to specific funding on some of the revenue sharing projects, specifically 3 of the revenue sharing projects that we have listed in this draft plan.
Does that include the 300 and some plus thousand left over from last year's budget? That you?
Yes, yes, ma'am, that's part of that special project fund balance, yes.
So then this 540, that just reflects what you're pulling out for these projects?
For the first 3 in the capital improvement plan, yes, ma'am. That 500 and,
546, 751.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Mabe, that 546, 751 actually will not cover the entire cost of the Shenandoah Farms share of these first 3 projects listed in the draft plan. They will be constructed over the next couple of construction seasons. So our hope and desire is that over the next couple of years, we'll realize additional revenues, additional tax collections at the end of the current fiscal year, next fiscal year. Those fund balances will go to cover any remaining cost on these first 3 projects in the draft CIP plan.
You're
So
looking for
how
cost
many
savings.
miles of road does this cover?
These
Just the ones that will be started?
These first 3 that we currently have in various levels of design is about a little over 1.5 miles, the first 3.
And then the second would be that the tax increase is dedicated to push over
Yes,
for that second set of 3 roads. How
Yes.
many miles would that be?
that is, that's about 1.1 miles, about 1.1 miles, approximately.
Okay.
Mr. Childress, it's Delores again. I got one more question. You were talking about the roads being prepared for VDOT to take over. Can you tell me, have any of them been taken over by VDOT yet? Or where are we on that?
Yes, we've been very successful as we've developed these capital improvement plans in the past, and we've constructed, I think it's been about 15 various projects of different lengths that total about 5 miles total that we have constructed and turned over to VDOT over the past approximately 10 years.
Thank you.
So they will come in and do, like if the road gets washed out, then they will come back and repair that. But they don't do snow removal on those, correct? We hire out to VDOT to perform that service, is that correct?
That's correct. We currently have a contract, we being Public Works, Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District, has a contract in place with VDOT to push snow for VDOT on the VDOT roads. If we didn't provide that service, which generates revenue for us, then VDOT would either push the snow or they'd have another contractor come in and push the snow for them. So it just made sense several years ago. We were driving over the VDOT roads that we had just constructed and paved and turned over to them. We were driving our snow plows over them to get to the internal sanitary district or roads that the county maintains. So it just made sense for us to go ahead and enter into a contract for snow removal on the roads we turned over to them.
You're there before the VDOT contractors, or VDOT
Yes,
would
most
normally be
often,
there.
yes. Most
I'm
often.
assuming that. Does the reimbursement from VDOT cover the total expense of the snow removal?
Yes.
Because I know snow removal is expensive.
It is, but they've got a very fair hourly rate for the equipment, and we found it does cover our costs.
Okay.
think the questions tonight were good to lead up to the public hearing. That's what's before us right now, to have a public hearing on the CIP. Just trying to be a little bit irreverent too. I see Bob, Dwayne, I think even Emily, you're not wearing masks.
They're expendable.
There you go. Oh, that works. You know, that's the point. I mean,
Thank you,
I
boss.
think that's what the goal is.
Okay.
Is going to be,
I'm-
lack of a better word, is going to be piecemealed to take care of these roads. You may have a section, and Bob can correct me if he wants. There's going to be like maybe, I don't know, 2 tenths of a road here, but it's up to the Shenandoah Farms. There's another 3/10. Eventually, most of these roads will come under VDOT, other than some that may have more of a slope or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a large number or large percentage of roads in Shenandoah Farms that will never be reconstructed, paved, and added to VDOT system simply because of too steep a grades, curvature, etc.
My point in
In the
asking,
meantime, we're going ahead and we're trying to pay what we can for those folks down there to get better roads. And again, getting back to it, all these questions and comments have been good. But right now, the only issue before us is to advertise for a public hearing for the CIP plan, and that's when people hopefully they can come and speak in person. But there again, depending on when this happens, I guess it'll be happening down in May. We'll still, Ms. Ciarrocchi will be able to take comments, emails, the whole thing from people, and then comment on the CIP. And the CIP will be out there for the comments to be made. Is that correct?
It is currently posted on the Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District webpage, yes. It is the draft 2020-2021 CIP.
my point in asking the questions and pulling it, Tony, was because of the fact that so many of the residents voiced their concern that they were uninformed, and I figure if they're live streaming, this is an opportunity to inform them so they too can get in the public hearing later.
Mr.
No
Chair,
problem with that. So, like I said, I'd just like to see us go ahead and approve the public hearing and then move on.
Are you going to make the motion, or would you like me?
We'll do it 30 days.
Okay, I move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the proposed FY 2020-21 Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District Capital Improvement Plan for advertisement for public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Chair, real quick, if I can make a
Discussion,
statement.
yes.
Real quick, just, I know the question comes up that, sometimes we'll kind of jump around and pick up segments of roadway. One, the segments really are that they're from, one intersection to the other.
Correct.
And part of it is constructability and Bob's 22 plus years of VDOT rely on his expertise to look at what's constructable in a segment and financially feasible. But two, we're also trying to spread the money around the district.
Exactly right.
You'll see projects like Old Oak on one side and then go up to the top of the mountain, the Tulip Poplar. Folks on all parts of the farm. This is a very expansive subdivision in the Sanitary District. We really have worked hard. We did Tomahawk this past year. We're trying to spread the money around so that different people in different areas see the results and see what they're paying for. So sometimes that means, we may do a segment down on the river section this year and 3 years later come back. But in the meantime, we've done a couple projects halfway up the mountain or on top of the mountain.
That's correct. Everybody gets to see a little bit about where the money's going to spend up there.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget either that it's just not Shenandoah Farms, but I think you mentioned one of the roads too that kind of goes through Blue Mountain to access the thing too. So they benefited as well. And I think Mr. Fox, that's Mr. Fox. It looks like he's a masked man. But anyway, we've done projects out there with Rural Road. What's the road out there, Archie? And we did that. We did several of them, right?
Lower Valley. Lower Valley with the
Lower
main
Valley.
road.
We did that. And we've done others throughout the community. And I think we did some with Lake Fair Walk. We did the one too in Cheryl's district as far as Green Manor Loop. And so we've done this throughout the county to help improve the roads for all our residents. So that's something to keep in mind as well. It's just not Shenandoah Farms, other than, they're coming with their CIP plan. But, we've done this throughout the county, like I said, if that makes sense.
Goonie Manor Loop wasn't rural addition, that was a 6-year plan project. 6 years
Yes,
that,
we had-
I'm sorry, that was what?
yeah, Goonie Manor was not part of that.
Sharon on Goonie Manor Loop.
I don't,
No, Green Manor, history
I don't
lesson.
know, I'm just going with
Go
Mr.,
back and-
that's what Mr.
Right.
Childress just said,
But
so.
I think to your point, Mr. Carter, you're absolutely right. Over the years, we have, even back in my time with VDOT, we built a number of rural additions around the county, and we've been able to leverage additional funding through VDOT's revenue sharing program. So I was involved with several in the Fork District, several in South River, or at least one in South River. Several in the Shenandoah district, so we have been able to spread.
Well, I know we had some on Rocky Lane, I think even, I can't remember, go back and look.
All revenue sharing
Yeah,
funds, yes,
yeah.
yes.
And the funding formula changed a little bit over the years, because
Oh,
it's been
yes.
very helpful to get more roads done, but
Yes.
because of the formula that has been changed.
Yes, it has.
You remember, back in the day, we used to get a certain percentage of money that went to revenue, rural addition projects,
Yeah.
like 5% of our budget,
Yeah.
and every couple of years, we were able to do one with no county dollars in, and
Right.
they took that option away from us
Yeah.
about 10 years ago.
Yeah, the rural additions used to be funded through the 6-year plan, but those days are long gone.
But you get a lot more road for your buck nowadays.
Yes, yes.
The thing too with Green Manor Loop, way back in the day, when I think Bob was talking to VDOT then, we budgeted like 1.2 million to do it. It came back at 1.4. That's when the economy was in flux, and we put it out for bid again. It came back at 1.6. So we were able to put in not interstate road per se, but we scale back on that, and we were able to put in lesser pavement. And if I remember too, and Bob, you can back me up if you remember, but we were spending like 15 grand, or VDOT was spending 15 grand a year on maintenance, and I think that's a pretty decent road back there. No, it's not hard paved or whatever, but it's, I don't know, what is it, Bob? Tar and chip?
Tar and chip.
Yeah,
Still
tar
pretty
chip
good.
on Goody Manor Loop, yeah. Yeah, VDOT was spending an exorbitant amount of maintenance money every year before it was surface treated, just putting the stone back after every thunderstorm. Yeah.
So we have a motion. I'll
I was
make
gonna
a
say.
second. I'm sorry, I'm getting y'all back on track.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. Only I made the motion, I couldn't do it.
And Ms. Oates, Mr. Fox actually did second that,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, well,
And
then
this-
I vote aye.
There you go.
And then this discussion's over. Could I get a roll call,
Okay,
please?
well, Ms. Oates voted aye.
Ms. Oates voted
Mr.
aye.
Carter,
All right.
Mr. Mabe,
Aye.
Ms. Colors.
Aye.
Mr. Fox.
Aye.
Then I guess this one would be Terrence, or unless.
Did you already do number 3?
Yes, that's the
Are
one.
you
Yes, sir, we did.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Are you ready for number 5?
Number 5, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The planning department has received a request to vacate a 50-foot wide platted right-of-way identified as Pawnee Place, recorded in deed book 171 on page 496. The right-of-way area is shown on a recent plat prepared by Colson PLC, and that's included in your packet. Pawnee Place is platted between lots owned by the applicant that's requesting this, Ms. Carla Cook, and It's through lots identified on tax map number 26A, section 7A, lots 30 through 34. She is requesting the right-of-way to be vacated in order to combine the lots to assemble a building lot for her future home, well, and septic. The access does not lead to any other lot. She owns all the lots around it, and so it won't hinder any current or future access, as long as all these lots are consolidated with the vacation as is shown on the plat that's in your packet. So I'll put that in the motion at the public hearing. And I included the letter from her attorney, Mr. Lawson, as well as the Colson plat and several maps that we prepared by our department. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I have one, Mr. Chairman. Is this a homeowners association? Is this in a homeowners association?
I think they do have a HOA, and I'll send this to them for the public hearing.
Okay, and so you'll get an opinion from the homeowners association as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And this is it's a platted right of way. It was never, it had been kind of a driveway at one point back in there, but it's grown over. So it's not maintained by anyone. But I'll send the request to them. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it doesn't appear that there's any structures on any of those lots?
Nope, I don't think so.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
She's purchased them, and she wants to combine them all to make a building lot.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have a motion at all yet?
I'll move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the advertisement of a public hearing for the proposal to vacate the 50-foot platted right-of-way shown on Pawnee Place as recorded in Deed Book 171 on page 496 in the Thunderbird Ranch subdivision.
Second.
Any discussion? When can we get that on the agenda?
That'll be for the May 19th.
May 19th, okay. Could I get a roll call, please, Emily?
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
The public, the Shenandoah Farm CIP, will that go on May 19th as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all of the ones that are authorization to advertise on the consent agenda, they're all on the May 19th. So hopefully by then, we'll be able to have it in person, but if not, I will be receiving public comment.
Next item on our agenda is item number J, which is the request for the adoption to amended the declaration of the state of emergency due to the novel coronavirus. That one was me. I've actually pulled that. I don't want to introduce that at all again.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to amend the agenda, or?
What's your thought, Jason?
Jason?
Yes, you put it on there, but other board members, if they want to act on it, could, so.
Well, I make a motion that item number J, the adoption of the amended declaration of state of emergency due to the novel coronavirus, be pulled from the agenda.
Second.
So that would be a motion to table it indefinitely?
We would be bringing it up at some point in time, possibly in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, then I'm fine with that.
Second.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Next is the request for the proposed budget and 2020 tax rates, Mr. Stanley and Andre.
Wake up, Andre. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the proposed budget for the county for fiscal year 2020-2021 is in the amount of $118,611,309, which includes county departments and the school operating fund, There are no proposed general tax increases for the county. Also attached to the budgets for the 13 sanitary districts and the budget for the school cafeteria fund in the amount of $3,070,728. There are proposed changes to the tax rates for the following sanitary districts as recommended by the HOA, POA/advisory board committee of the respective districts. For the Cedarville Heights Sanitary District, an increase from $100 per lot to $250 per lot. For the High Knob Sanitary District, an increase from $403 per unimproved lot to $651 per improved lot, to $413 per unimproved and $667 per improved. So that's an increase of $10 per unimproved lot and $16 per improved lot. Lakefront Royal Sanitary District, to go from $300 per lot plus 5 cents per hundred of assessed value on improvements to $345 per lot plus 5 cents per hundred of assessed value on improvements. And I would note that is basically there's a decrease of $50. It's an HOA fee. They would get rid of that and replace it with a $45 sanitary district increase. Linden Heights would go from $350 per lot to $375 per lot, and as Mr. Childers has previously noted, I think they're in the process of trying to save up for a rural road addition project. And Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District, as proposed, would go from $265 per unimproved lot and $305 per improved lot to $350 per unimproved lot and $350 per improved lot. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know both I and staff have been addressing some questions over the last week since the public hearing, but certainly happy to answer any questions that we can. And again, Andre's here as well.
Any comments or concerns? Delores or Mr. Carter?
We're good.
So, Mr. Stanley, we had spoken earlier about this, and this budget includes the step increases and the COLAs for the county staff. And we had spoken about the delaying of that to January so that we could at least consider how this COVID thing is going to play out in the fall.
So if you look at your proposed motions that I have provided, I included a reference to the board freezing the implementation of the 1.5% COLA. So it's not a step, it's a COLA increase. And then also phase 2 of the compensation study, that's at a cost of about $300,000. The 1.5% COLA was about $228,000 cost. So total, those two things, about $528,000. What my suggestion is freeze them and reevaluate them. I haven't per se put a date on it. You know, maybe we come back in October and look at it. Maybe we come back in December. Maybe it's March. I think we need to be able to fully assess our revenue streams and where things are going prior to moving forward. As I've said, and I think some of y'all have said, I'd rather hold back on that than have to be put in a position of furloughing positions or cutting positions mid-year. I'd rather have that, basically leave that as backup revenue and have the ability to be flexible as we move forward.
Part of your proposal, go ahead, Archie.
I'm just out of curiosity, on the Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District going to $350 per unimproved lot, how much revenue would that raise for those guys down there? Do we have any idea on the numbers?
The proposed $350.
As proposed, it would be $163,997, or $164,000 a year.
It would,
based on their collection rate.
okay.
If it's approved as presented. Yes.
Okay.
And that also covers their rural road addition too. That's why the increase.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
That's the primary reason.
In fact, that entire amount's gone to, you'll see it in the budget, is gone to fund revenue sharing and internal.
It's specified for them.
Correct.
Okay.
If
Thank you.
we did the same thing with that tax increase that we are doing and held off until fall, and if people were able to make it retroactive to June, or how, what would that do? I would rather, the same thing as we're doing with the salary increases, to wait until fall to impose that tax on them, where that would give them time to see where they are financially. How would that affect
So,
that number?
so really we have to adopt the taxes for the tax year. You could cut it in half, the increase in half, and spread it out, but there's, I think it's not practical to have the two different tax rates for the Shenandoahs, one for the first half of the year and one for the second.
I see, it
I don't think that'll work,
complicates it.
yeah.
I understand that. I'm just trying, I have a hard time increasing that amount. It's one thing if you have one lot. That's not a huge increase. But when I hear that some of these people have quite a few lots, then that does make it a big burden on them. And with the COVID and people being out of work, I just have a hard time with it because, and I understand, I've been well informed that it will put them behind in getting a road going. But when I think of putting some money in a burden of not being able to pay and maybe losing something, property or whatever, and staying on the road for another year, but I understand the fear is then that will put them behind with VDOT. I just need to say it that I'm cognizant of both ends. And when I look at road versus providing for your family, the family comes over the road. I'm sorry. So it's a hard thing for me. And I was hoping that somehow we could figure out a way to lessen that burden and still give them what they want. And I just got to put that out there. And I guess my other question is, since there's one motion and the second one addresses the school's allotment, we need to go ahead and throw that out there as well, folks, and discuss that portion.
Yeah, I know we talked about a little bit last work session we had, and there was a comment. I know the school's increase is actually like 500 and some thousand. I don't have my. Say 513. A sheet here. I'm sorry, Andre. $513,692 is the increase to the schools. But let me say, and again, there was an error made last year on the final budget calculations where the cost of the mowing and all that stuff, we took it out of their increase, then we took it out of their budget. It was not intended to come out. They thought it wasn't coming out. So what they think, or based on what they thought their current budget was, the increase was $267,200, but the actual increase, because that 246 number there is the 513, the 267,200 would be level funding of the local appropriation for the schools.
So the two something that
The
we took out that we
246.
shouldn't, that was what they had in their budget to pay for mowing?
That's what they had in the budget to do all the mowing. That's the staff, that's the mower replacement. That's what they were budgeting the previous year for mowing operations. We took that amount and added it to Brad's budget and Parks and Rec maintenance and assumed that responsibility. But we cut it out of their budget, but I cut it out of their request. I didn't mean to do it twice. They thought they were.
Oh, so you did it twice, because I was
Yeah.
going to say, well, if we took over, why should we not get the money?
Well, yeah, and it was we cut their budget request, but then we cut that 246 out of the budget, and so we, in essence, I think, did it twice. In that they thought they were able to keep that plus the increase, and that wasn't the case. We cut their base by
Well,
the
if
246.
they're not doing the job, no, they don't keep the funding for it, so that, okay.
Well, at the end of the day,
But if you did it twice, then I
Yeah,
understand
they
it. I
get-
just,
they get what you give as far as the increase.
okay, so if we did option 2 here, that would include putting that into a fund for reserve.
Yes.
That amount, what is the second amount, the school cafeteria? Would that also be cut and put into
No,
a
no,
reserve?
and those are federal funds, I think, for the most part, right, Andre?
Right,
Plus,
yeah,
plus their meals money they get for the meals.
Right, yeah, the cafeteria fund, we don't.
That wouldn't
we can't
change.
cut that.
Well, I didn't think, but it's there. So have they heard yet? Because I've heard conflicting that yes, they have been told.
No, they haven't.
They
heard
have
that.
not been told
They're,
yet.
they
that
are,
state,
they're going to get cut in their state funds.
But
they
they
haven't-
don't, but they don't know
the
how
amount.
much.
That's right. And they'll have to, Ms. Oates asked me the question, we really approve the local contribution. They will have to make adjustments to their budget, whether it's now or in June. I think what the governor is going to do is make some kind of contingent cuts so that if things come back, then money can be restored to their budget. But if not, they'll be cut. The school system knows we're committing the local funds. And that if they get cut by the state, they'll have to come back and adjust their budget.
so even if we did hold that, it's going to be set aside.
Yes,
And if they did need it, then we could allocate it
it'll
to
be
them.
sitting in reserve for contingencies, along with the other 528,000 because freezing the implementation of the salary studies. We'll have the 528 plus the 267 basically at the board's disposal to either offset reduction in revenue or if additional expenses come up, that money, those funds would be available to the board. Let's say if we didn't move forward with the pay increase, let's say we didn't start until mid-year, then half those funds will be available to the board. But it just, I think it gives about $750,000 in flexibility to the Board of Supervisors going into the new budget should conditions worsen or continue to stay worse and we see revenue impacts on things like meals tax, lodging tax, sales tax. Or even, say, personal property collections. In that
Correct.
case.
So in essence, it's there. Hopefully the state won't hit them as hard. What effect would this put them?
They're going to have to make a decision. You know, they had some additional extra. They were adding some teaching positions and some additional things. My guess is if the governor ends up cutting part of their budget increase, right? They had 2.6 million in increase. That may impact. Remember, they were planning to do phase 2 and 3 of the salary survey. My guess is maybe they're only able to do maybe phase 2 and have to hold off on phase 3 till the following year until and if the governor restores those funds.
But in essence, if they're not hit as hard and say, well, but of course they need to, salaries they could go ahead and do.
Yeah.
But impacting positions is going to be a harder ship than
Well, we also have
implementing
to
a late
remember,
payment.
we also have to consider what their new normal is going to be.
Right.
They may not have to have substitute teachers. They may not, they may make the decision not to add actual positions that they were trying to bring on board. But that's their decisions, not.
Well,
really.
correct. I'm just trying to get.
Yeah, I
as
just want to
much-
make sure that you know that they are going to have to make
Well,
decisions
they've
too.
got to tighten their
Yeah.
belts just like we're going to have to tighten ours, and I understand that. But I just, before I vote on either one, I feel like I
Wanna know
need
what the
to ask
ramifications
these.
are.
Yes,
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to just.
I've talked to the
Habits.
superintendent about the potential that, you know, that I put that, it's on the table, that we've discussed a little bit. They know it's a possibility. But I also said I'm not going to throw on the table, hopefully not the 246 number, which they were already short in the deficit this year. You know, again, they had a pretty robust budget year from the state. You know, even if the governor cuts a third of it, they're still going to get significant more funding from the state. So
I-
hopefully that'll allow them to move forward with some of the initiatives they wanted to do.
And I don't want them to think that I don't appreciate them and want to support them, but at the same time, this whole thing has us all having to look at how much you can support and how much you're not going to be able to. So I like the fact that it's going to be sitting there in a reserve. It's an emergency fund,
And you could
so it's not like we're going to spend it and they can't.
And you could
come back
You
to
could,
it.
like Mr. Mabe said, you could appropriate at mid-year to them. Let's say the revenue picture looks good, you can
Right,
turn it loose.
right.
Or at least it's built into the budget for next year that certainly become available, and they
Right.
know, hey, that we've got the funding. We didn't cut it. As of yet, we hadn't spent it, but at least it's there and potentially
Right.
available.
The 246, is that dollars is an oversight on our part?
It's
correct?
our part, it's our fault.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
They don't have it, hadn't had it, it was removed from their budget. If we decide that we want to table that for a year, to leave that money available to us if we need it, is that something?
That's a cut of people and positions from the current budget. They're going to be short this year by $250,000. That is a cut that's going to hurt. The
Okay.
267 is new money. That was money they thought they had, so they've in essence spent it. Good news is their number of students were up by 65. They have additional revenue coming in.
So they spent it, but
They're
they
gonna
got
ha-
it back a little.
They're going to have savings this year because of the fuel,
Correct.
substitute teachers, electricity, water, sewer, all that savings for being shut down since May or mid-March. So they'll be okay in this current year. That would hurt next year if we took that out.
Well, I think that's the thing too. What you said, they're going to have the savings in utilities, fuel costs, whatever. But that's in this current fiscal year. In the years past, 15 and 20 years, when they had extra money left over, what they would do is they would come to the county and ask for them, we got $1 million left over, and what's happened traditionally is that the county would say, okay, we'll take half of it back to put in their reserve fund, and the other half will go to the schools to go for capital improvements. Now, there was, 2008, 2009, we had to give back some of it to them for operating expenses. So, again, like I said, with this current fiscal year, since the schools are shut down, they should have that much more savings. So when they come back to us, I guess, what is it, Doug? August, September, they'll say we have this much left over, and then we can take it all back or whatever. But that impacts this current fiscal year. What we're talking about right now is the upcoming fiscal year.
Correct.
And personally, I feel that we go ahead and adopt a budget with keeping the tax rate the same. And then we also, I think, with the salary increases, at least for our departments, the county, the constitutional offices, that we keep that, we push that back to January, which we've done in the past. And that saves a little bit this year. The only thing to keep in mind is next year we get the full ride on that. So I just think we move forward and adopt this as it is. And again, I don't know, Delores, you there?
I am.
Okay. And then I talk to you. If it makes sense to maybe also what we did last year, we kept the tax rate basically the same, even though there was a adjustment for the assessment. But I think we also, what was it? We asked departments to do 1.65 or whatever like that to cut. And there again, I think the departments have done a good job with the budget this year as far as keeping it low. Although there were some departments that, not trying to pick on anybody, but the one department was Commonwealth's attorney, where they needed additional staff and increase in some of the people they brought in there. So I would suggest that we keep the tax rate the same, everything's the same, and then we ask all the departments, although you did a great job keeping it down, to just cut maybe 1% and keep that money in reserves, with the caveat that as they need it, we could release it, if that makes sense.
Well, Tony, go one step further. What's the number that you're considering asking them to cut? 1% or 5% or more?
No, I think we do 1%, because I think most of the departments have did a good job in trying to keep the zero balance budget, and they did a good job with that. I think they have tried to make those means. So I think by doing 1%, I think 5% will be a stretch. It depends on the department. I mean, if you look at the sheriff's department, 5%, that'd probably be like $200,000 or $300,000. With the Parks and Rec, it would probably be $100,000. But I'm just saying, take the 1%, set it aside, and there again, we maybe shift stuff from one department to the other to offset some expenses that may come down the road. In the meantime, and there again, in my tenure, I think the departments have always been good as far as being a guardian of the money. I don't think they necessarily outspent stuff and what's the word?
We want them to be frugal.
Padded their budget, the whole thing. I think this gives them an incentive to do what they can, but there again, if you do 1%, I think, and it's in reserve, I think they can maybe tighten their belts too, because we depend, I think that's how Delores said too, we set policy. In order to carry out our policies, we have to have good departments and constitutional officers to carry out those things. So that would be my recommendation.
Just clarification, Mr. Carr. Last year was a 1.2% with the end. We asked them to go back. And I will say, in some of our smaller departments, and not only my own, but like the commissioner, the revenue, and the treasurer, 1% is going to be tough because a lot of those departments are kind of bare bones. I know, and I'll tell the treasurer, you make sure that the bills get mailed. I'll find the money to make sure the tax bills get mailed, the delinquent notices get mailed. 1% represents about $382,000, $383,000. It's doable. I would not go above that because I know some of these departments have just been cut over the years. And even like fire and rescue, you're talking about a $30,000 hit on a budget that's, for all intents and purposes, shoestring. It means they probably will have to manage some vacancy savings a little bit to be able to do it. But it's potentially doable. But I think if you take that, put it in reserve for contingencies, and allow them, potentially even like mid-year, December, January, to come back and take a look at it, maybe they'll give us some flexibility at that point.
And who am I speaking to?
That was Mr. Stanley.
This is Doug? Okay. All right, yeah. Again, I don't want to, like I said, we need to, bottom line is we need to make sure we can provide the services that our constituents want. And there again, that's what I'm saying. If you do it 1%, and then keep it in reserve, and then as we get through this crisis, then we can, we'll have it there, and then also give some incentive too for the different departments, constitutional officers, whatever, to see if they can make any further cuts. And I know better than you, I know better than most, I think our department heads and our constitutional officers have done a good job of protecting and spending the taxpayers' money to the best of the ability. So that's the only thing there. And again, I can't reiterate that enough either, that in this last budget, most of the department heads, constitutional officers, they have come in and done a great job. Don't get me wrong. But again, going back to, not trying to pick on the CA's office, but there was things that came in there with that. And then part of that too is we can always blame the state, because they're the ones that put this stuff on us and make us have to spend money, just like that, what do you call it, the assistant Commonwealth's attorney They have to have somebody just to review all
The camera footage, yeah.
the body cams and stuff like that. And they didn't give us any additional funding. So that's what people need to understand too. We do a good job, but then we get these unfunded mandates from the state. And I'm not really blaming the state so much, but it also, it gets passed down from the feds. The feds tell the state to do something, and then they just pass it on to us. And there again, don't get me wrong, I think the state does a good job as trying to protect us. But that's all I'm suggesting there is, let's go ahead, pass this budget, no tax increase. The other thing too, and I'm not sure if we've had that already, but let's make sure we give 60 days or so with no penalties, no interest on your taxes due, and give some people some relief. That's my only thoughts.
If we do 1% and that raises 383, and we look hard at these upcoming projects, because I mean I can see Rockland Park Bathhouse, $75,000 to $100,000. Right there's a chunk. You know, some of these you can't do. The roof on the firehouse you got to do.
Right.
You know, but some of those things
There can
we
be
could not.
decisions made on
They
it
can
or
be
not
put
to
off,
either do them
and
or
that
not
money
do them.
put
You can just
as a
hold
reserve.
off. You can just hold off and
Right,
not do them. That's right.
which would give us a cushion without, and maybe that would be the thing to do and look at how much you would have to hit and go 0.5% to ease up on some of the departments that,
Well, $300,000 can be eat up real fast if we need it badly.
right, but I'm saying it, yeah, I feel like those two departments down there,
And a lot of others too.
yeah, well, yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Carter, we're getting a lot of feedback from your microphone. Are you outside in the wind? Can you mute your microphone? I'm sorry.
But, I mean, I think there too is another, in Parks and Recs, if there's things going on there that we should be saving some money, I would think. I mean, I know we have to keep mowing grass, but.
Yeah, it really, as you know, other than those things, that sheet, in the fire station, most of our capital stuff is fairly limited right now, which is good. We haven't really added anything this year as far as new
These are all,
stuff that's been in the works for a
yeah,
while.
I mean, but they're all things like, yeah, the love signs would be nice.
And that's tourism.
But,
Actually,
yeah, that's tourism, and I know.
which you can't spend on
but-
some.
Also, that is
You can't
tourism
spend it on
dollars.
anything
That's tourism
Okay,
dollars, that's
okay,
right.
it doesn't.
That's an
yeah.
easy one.
And like I said, some of them, but in the Morgan Ford, we're getting $100,000.
You're getting 100.
But there's 150 here, so that's 50 we can throw in the pot.
But that's Morgan Ford Road is for that park, right?
No, that's the bridge,
The
the
boat
boat
landing.
landing.
Yeah, but I'd say to get the 100, you got to spend the 50, and that's or close. But
I didn't think that
I
was
mean,
a cash
I can
match.
see us
Well-
just getting the boat landing. I can't see us
Well, I'm
spending
saying
the extra money.
we get 100 from DGIF, the
Right.
DuPont money. So why are we throwing 50 in on it?
well, first
Make
of all,
it stretch and do. When 100's gone, it's gone, done. Take that 50 and throw in the pot for reserves.
and we could not do any other projects. I agree. We could,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are some, you gotta do the roof on North Warren. That's just a
and that's
no-brainer.
remember that's
That's
proper
money,
that's
right.
given.
But some of them, the reconfiguration, do we really need to spend 10,000 on the finance department? Move the furniture down.
We're finished that project.
Okay,
Carpets-
that was
carpets in.
$10,000 we could have saved. So, there, well, it says summer or spring, so,
No,
where
we're-
is it? Spring, so
Yeah,
waiting on furniture layout plan, so.
so we're gonna move the furniture, reconfigure it. I know Mr. Mabe wants to use part of that as an office. We can hold off on that for the board, but we
So
have
how the heck is moving furniture and just readjusting it costing $10,000?
no, that was.
I thought it was buying the
The
furniture.
10,000 was the full cost of the project. That's
Okay.
carpet, paint, putting
Okay.
that door in.
We need to get some of those FYI guys for our, what is it? I can't, the show that's on and
Oh, the
they can do
DIY.
yeah,
DIY.
they can do a whole kitchen for $2,000.
Yeah, for $8.
Yeah. We gotta figure those guys out.
Let's get back on track.
I
but-
know, but I'm saying, we're looking at departments And I don't want to forget that we've got projects that we can hold off and keep that money, don't spend it, but
Well,
have it
before
fall
the
back on.
decision is made to spend it, it can come back to the
Right.
board and,
Right. I
and
just
that
don't wanna
decision be
forget
made. I'm in agreement that if we cut the budget a percentage point, that saves us 300. If we can find another 200, we put $500,000 in reserve someplace.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that this 383, yeah, it'd be nice to have, but some of these departments are gonna be hit harder
Yes, they are.
And I think if we
than others.
move it and put it in reserve for contingencies, again, just kind of like the schools, that we could restore it.
Right, if
but
it
wait.
came to billing out and we don't have the money to pay the stamps, we could dip into it, okay?
Now, I'm gonna say this, and I'll probably get in trouble over it, but if this this pandemic continues and our normal shifts and it changes, we could go through some money relatively quickly, the county, because we need it. And we need to think of that. I would rather think the worst and plan for the worst, and if the best comes, we've all won. And to adjust our budget and save 1%,
Oh, I
and
agree.
to save additional funds, that's what we should do to
I agree.
protect ourselves.
I agree, I'm just saying we need to look beyond just the departments.
Absolutely.
And that's my only point to make there is, I wanna make sure that we're looking at everything that we can, because it's just to be fair about it as well. And I always go with worst case scenarios.
Right.
And then
Archie,
also
you have
Yeah,
something?
I guess we need to be concerned about the revenues coming in at tax time too, because I
Yes.
expect that, you know, we're gonna take a hit on those.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, the good thing is that, you know, by extending that deadline 60 days, we won't know the full. But certainly by September, October, we'll have a good handle on how did the current fiscal year close out. Because we're pushing that days by 60 days. Every month we move along, we'll have a good idea as far as meals tax, sales tax, those things. The things that are more dependent on consumer spending. The bottom line is the real estate.
So we're already planning for that somewhat.
A lot of those pieces, we'll know the answer to that, Archie. But
But I imagine even the real estates might take a little dip.
it could, again, if for those of us that have a mortgage, I won't have a choice.
Right.
To me, it's personal property, personal automobiles. Those are the ones that may be potentially people might wait the 60 days and take advantage of that. We'll find out here in a month where we are on the curve of the COVID, and we'll know if people are going back to work and how quickly that's happening, what the unemployment rate is, those pieces.
Right.
I think, again, even the 1%, that will give us, we'll have a 1 million, 1.2 million plus, we'll have a nice cushion there, setting aside that if we do have some impacts, that we can be flexible to respond to.
And if
Mr. Stanley, this is Delores. The personal property taxes estimate is $550,000 more than the year ending 2020, 6/30/2020. Do you believe that that's a realistic number now that we are in a different environment? Because it currently is, I guess, revenue for 6/30/2020 is $16,600,000, and you have $17,150,000 projected.
And we collected 16.85 last year. So do I feel good about the couple hundred? Yes, I do.
Okay.
Could that be impacted? Absolutely. But I think this year's is going to be up. We'll have an overage this year. But again, I think odds are that one or two categories may go up. In the past, one or two other categories may help make up the difference. I guess the real question is that what if everything happens at once? And I pointed this out before. Even during the Great Recession, year over year, every year through it, sales tax increased, meals tax increased, and lodging tax increased. Now, if we start coming out of this in the next 30 or 45 days, I feel we'll be perfectly fine. I think the big concern is, like Mr. Mabe said, what if this goes on for the next 5 years? It's going to be a new environment. It's going to be a new economy. A lot of other things are going to happen. Yeah, a lot of other things are going to change. I do think, that just looking at some of the other areas that are already starting to look at past the peak and starting to come out and open up restaurants and things, that stuff will it'll be a new normal, but things will start coming back. I think people are out and they're ready to start spending money and go out to eat, go to the movies and go do some stuff when that opportunity comes up. But personal property, most, even through the recession, people may have held off a few months of buying the new car, but eventually they bought the new car because they needed to drive to work every day. Eventually, or they may change when gas prices jumped up. They went to different vehicles and more fuel efficient, but people still bought cars. We'll be, unfortunately, in about 3 or 4 months, we'll be able to tell you a little bit more as far as what that looks like. But, I think, the unknowns of when will we have a vaccine? Will there be a second wave in the winter? We have other flexibilities, I pointed out. We can freeze at non-essential positions. You could furlough employees next year if things went really poorly. There's lots of other ways we have to be able to address it outside of the budget. But I think the fact that you are making some of these adjustments and putting, $1 million plus aside to be able to respond to it gives us some flexibility should things change.
And also, Archie, you brought to the point of getting real estate taxes done. I mean, in Shenandoah Shores, for example, we did our numbers based upon an 84% return rate of, we already know that there are people that's not going to pay their taxes on time. Right. So we've already tried to figure some of that in. Mr. Childers has done a decent job in taking care of that for us without us even having to worry about it. And if it gets worse than that, then, we just didn't figure enough. But the fact is, we started figuring those things out in advance.
And the easy part.
Well, I agree with what you said, Mr. Mabe, and I think right now, we need to adopt the budget as it is, and then we can adjust it throughout the year. My concern, there's been a lot of good discussion from all the board, but I think we need to move forward and adopt it. We reevaluate in 3-4 months. If we have to cut some things, we can do that. So I don't know if there's a motion there to adopt it. If there is a motion, I will make that to adopt the budget as it is. And then with the caveat that we reevaluate in 3 months and see what happens. If we need to, give some people more relief as far as suspending the penalties and taxes, I'm all in favor of that. But, like I said, I don't know how much. Most people, they pay their taxes through their escrow. And that will go up, like Shenandoah Farms, $5 to $10 a month. Which there again, that's a pain. But there again, I would just, my motion is there to adopt the budget as it is, with the caveat that we reevaluate this come August or September.
So, Mr. Carter, this is Jason. There is a carefully worded, long motion that says that and a few other things that you've talked about, and it's the first option of suggested motions. Is that your motion?
Sure.
But
Did we also want to include the school portion and
Yeah.
the 1%?
That's option 2, which I prefer.
But that is included in the first one, I believe.
Mr. Chairman,
Personally, I think we leave the school budget alone at this point, because they're going to have some savings, and they'll come back to us in August or September, saying they have a surplus, and we can evaluate that at that time to see if we want to give that back to the schools, or we're going to put that in our coffers for the reserve.
Yeah, 'cause we do have the option not to give it back.
3 months down the road.
Mr. Fox?
Could we make sure that's a clear motion that we all understand?
That's the,
Because I hear,
that's the second one that you're talking about, isn't it?
The second one holds the 267, 200 in reserve. The first one just
Oh, okay.
freezes the COLA and compensation study for our.
And either one of those, if you want to include, and further move that we ask each department to go back and cut 1% of their proposed budget. And
I would
that
be
would be
happy.
finalized in the appropriations resolution like we did last year, but we'd need to add that in there.
I think that we should.
So the way the motion is written, gentlemen, ladies, I don't understand it because it's what you're doing is combining both of those motions and not an either or. But it looks like it's an either or the way it's written. So could you clarify, please?
It is an either or. It's, the first one is an option and after or is the second option from my understanding here.
Yeah, but you guys are talking about combining them from what I'm listening.
Okay, I ain't trying to make this difficult. I guess what I'm trying to get there is we adopt the budget as it is. We ask for a 1% decrease in the budgets from the standpoint that the Department of Constitutional Offices trying to cut 1% with the caveat that they will it'll be put in reserves if they need it in the future as things settle. And then I would say we leave the school budget alone. And there again, they're going to have some savings, I think, with fuel, utility costs, whatever. And they'll come back to us in August or September with what they saved. And they'll come to us and we can determine how to appropriate that at that time. Guess what the school savings is this year. Excuse me. What the school savings is this year is in the current fiscal budget.
Hey, Tony, let me clarify real quick. So they still have to come back. They're going to come back to us to ask for leftover FY19 funds. The FY20, which ends June 30, they can't come back to us until after the audit's done. So that'll be sometime in 2021 after the audit's adopted. So it'll be probably 8-9 months before we actually will see it to consider after the audit's completed.
Okay, I don't disagree with you. It just seems like they're, again, time runs together, but it just seems like they usually come to us prior to that. But if you say it's 2021, that's fine.
Yeah.
But sometime down the road, they're going to come back to us and say, we had more school students, we have more state funding, or whatever. We've got $500,000, $1 million, or whatever. And then that at that time, we can go ahead and decide they give it all back to us, or we give it some of it back to them for a capital improvement. That's fine. But we're talking about the difference between fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. Right now, we're talking about fiscal year 2021 as far as what we're going to allow in the budget. And I just don't see us cutting anything with them at this point, with the caveat that we do wind up getting some money back from them in the future. Does that make sense?
Now, Mr. Carter, it would be okay with you. Could I read a motion? Then I think it summarizes what you're trying to do. But let me read it, and you can adopt it if you so desire. Is it okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So the motion would be that the Warren County Board of Supervisors adopt the proposed FY 2020-2021 budget in the amount of $118,611,309, which includes the budgets for county departments and the school operating fund, the 2020 tax rates as advertised, the school cafeteria fund in the amount of $3,070,728, and the sanitary district tax rates and budgets as advertised. It would further move that the board freeze the implementation of the proposed 1.5% FY 2020-2021 cost of living increase for county staff and phase 2 of the county compensation study for county employees until the full impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the county's revenues can be ascertained, and further move that each county department be asked to cut 1% of their total proposed operating budgets, the aggregate amount estimated at $382,940, and that those funds be placed in budget line 91,058.99 reserved for contingencies.
Okay, say that one more time. Just kidding. No, the only thing in there I didn't hear was that with the increase in the payroll or whatever will be put off till January 1.
I didn't put a date on it. If you want to put a date, we can certainly say January 1.
Well, I'm just saying that saves us a little bit more money too, right?
Every month it goes by, it does. It does.
And there again, I don't want to cut the staff short, but that's what we've done in the past as far as with pay increases. You know, we cut it back half a year, so at least they know that they're going to get it, and that we're thinking about them and the whole thing. So, but that would save us a little bit more money too. But then at least that would be something that you can look forward to and know that we're there with them and we want to go forward with it.
Ms. Color stated, could we do that? Number one is the potential for Christmas, but
Right.
two, I would say, one, the revenue picture may look good. Maybe you do like October when we implemented the phase 2 in October of last year, or you may need to push it to late March if the revenues look really poor.
I suggest not putting a date on it. I think that's the wisest thing to do.
No, I would like to do it before Christmas if we could, and that could seem, the Christmas bonus to help them through Christmas, that they weren't able to get it earlier. I realize
every
people.
little bit will help at some
think-
point in time.
Okay. Well, listen, what's today? April 21. Mark that on your calendar, Cheryl, because I agree with you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Lordy.
No, I'm okay
We
with
do
October.
not need
No,
snow in
I appreciate
April.
that. No, I appreciate that. No, seriously.
No.
I mean, I'm okay with that. There again, I think we're going to have to revisit this in August or September and see where we stand. But at least at this point, let's move forward. And we got a path to move forward, and we'll have to revisit this, depending on how things go. But we need to move. Oh God, I don't want to say forward. We need to move ahead to get this thing done and go forward and go ahead. So
So are we also considering all of the sanitary districts in this? Is there a way that we can vote on them separately?
You absolutely can. What I read was that they were all together. If you want to
Yeah.
break them out, we can do that as well.
Yeah, the
I would.
350,
I'd like to do that.
the
Okay.
350 will cover their rural road addition, and it would fund that for all 3 roads. That's what the 350 will do.
well, with all due respect to Ms. Riley. I'm sorry. My God. Hey, I just stepped back 20 years ago, whatever. But no. What exactly concerns do you have about that? Because we could still wrap it up in one motion, or we can go ahead and do separates. But
Well, it was my understanding that we were still discussing the sanitary district increases and that we hadn't really drawn any conclusion on that in previous conversations.
No, I agree.
Right now, we're just discussing budget items. And so I want to give those folks that are getting these increases their due and listen to the discussion about that topic separately.
We've already done
If
that.
Well, we haven't voted, so.
Yeah, we haven't
I
No,
voted.
we have not.
Do you want me to reread the motion without the sanitary districts included?
Well, have
I'm
we
sorry.
decided what, hold each other on who wants to go with the first one or who wants to include schools? I mean,
So there is a current motion on the table. It doesn't have a second, but I believe Ms. Oates wanted us to expound upon exactly what the amounts are for each sanitary district
Yeah.
that we're proposing
Yes.
to adopt?
Yes.
Ms. Oates, would you like me to
Correct.
would you like me to read all of the proposed amounts?
Yes.
Okay. So the proposed amounts included in the motion for the sanitary districts for the calendar year 2020. Blue Mountain would be $65 per lot plus 24 cents per 100 of assessed value on improvements. Cedarville Heights would be $250 per lot. High Knob would be $413 per unimproved lot and $667 per improved lot. Lakefront Royal would be $345 per lot plus 5 cents per 100 of assessed value on improvements. Linden Heights would be $375 per lot. Osprey Lane would be $100 per unimproved lot and $1,000 per improved lot. Riverside would be $60 per lot plus 12 cents per 100 of assessed value on improvements. Shangri-La would be $385 per lot. Shenandoah Farms would be $350 per unimproved lot and $350 per improved lot. Shenandoah Shores would be $120 per lot plus 20 cents per 100 of assessed value on improvements. Skyland Estates would be 35 cents per 100 of assessed value of unimproved lots, plus 35 cents per 100 of assessed value on improvements. South River Estates would be $300 per lot, plus 5 cents per 100 of assessed value on improvements. And Wildcat Drive would be $150 per unimproved lot and $400 per improved lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so are we voting on this budget in its entirety with the inclusivity of the sanitary district?
We need a second.
Yes, we need a second though.
I'll second.
Well, wait, is our record clear? I mean, Doug read that motion, and then Tony talked a lot about it. Emily, can you
Yes,
clarify?
so it's the full budget of the 118 million figure, freezing the COLA and compensation phase 2.
Well, rather than restate it, did Tony move to adopt what Doug read?
Yes, and then Ms. Oates requested that I expound upon the sanitary district fees as proposed section of that motion, and that's what I did.
Right, and that's as advertised, right? Because
Yes.
Doug read that
Yes,
already.
all of those rates were as advertised and proposed by the respective advisory boards.
So that motion was done. I agreed to it. Mr. Fox, I think, seconded it.
Correct.
Ms. Oates, I think, would like to have further discussion, I think, mainly on the Shenandoah Farms. And I think under the motion, we can have further discussion. And I'm open to hearing anything that Ms. Oates has to say. And there again, I think the only contention is Shenandoah Farms. So, Ms. Oates?
Well, I just want to make sure that we understand that the increases are $80 on an unimproved lot and $45 on the approved. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think that's the total number. Okay, and that the feedback that we've received and the survey was in favor
That is correct.
of those increases by what about 2/3 to a third, maybe?
Well, the totals were 240 unique responses, which means 240 people responded to the surveys, or emails, or phone calls, or, I mean, I can read off everything all of the different ways that people send in information.
There was no duplicity between those? There was no duplication between the people who...
Delores, we had actually checked on all of those. We meaning Emily, she's done a great job in taking care of that. But there were 169 property owners in favor, which is 58% of the respondees, and 71 property owners that opposed it, or 42. So most people, just as a general consensus, did not mind the increase. And there's a whole lot of people that didn't respond for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into that. Hopefully we'll fix that in the future. But of the people that responded, most of the people were in favor of it.
Okay. I just wanted that to be in the public record.
Okay? And you've added that particular,
Yeah, you want to make sure that everybody understands why we're voting the way we're voting.
correct. And you're adding that summarization sheet into your,
I can, would you like me to include it in the packet that's posted on the website, or would you like me to actually include that in the minutes? The breakdown?
yes,
To both?
yeah, to both.
Okay.
Emily, quick question. I know, what time did you pull those results?
4
up to?
o'clock.
4 o'clock?
This was updated as of 4 o'clock.
So there, I
this
didn't know if
afternoon.
any other ones had come in later this afternoon.
So there have been, so I just checked the survey, there are 2 additional responses. So there were 177 people who responded as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, because I checked again at 5.
Okay.
But between 5 and 9:45, there have been 2 more, but
Okay.
Do you know whether they were for or against?
I can check. It's loading. Sorry. In favor
Okay, so both were in
and
favor.
against. So 1 in favor
One
and 1
and
against.
So the numbers don't change.
numbers don't change.
Like a husband or wife, right?
All right. I'm happy with the motion the way it is then.
Okay, thank you very much. And we did
You're
have a
welcome.
second. Any additional discussion?
Who was the second, Emily?
Mr. Fox
Mr.
was the
Fox.
second.
Fox, okay. Sorry, Archie.
Could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Carter?
I think I'm going to kind of abstain and let Emily vote for me.
Don't you dare, I'm not allowed to.
No. Aye. I'm sorry. It's late.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
No.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Request for an adoption for a resolution to set percentage of tax relief for personal property, motor vehicles for 2020 tax year. Mrs. Sowers?
I don't know if Sherry's on.
I don't know either.
Basically, Caitlin, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have your cover sheet?
I do.
You can go ahead and read it.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. The Virginia Personal Property Tax Relief Act requires the Commonwealth to reimburse localities that provide tax relief to its citizens for qualifying vehicles. In order for the county to receive this reimbursement from the Commonwealth and in order for the county to comply with Warren County Code Section 160-1, the board must set the percentage of tax relief at a level that's anticipated to exhaust the personal property tax relief funds through a resolution. The Commissioner of Revenues, Sherry Sowers, has calculated that the rate for the 2020 tax year should be set at 36%. She has sent out a memorandum to that effect, which was included in your packet. A resolution that reflects Ms. Sowers' proposed tax rate has been prepared, and a copy of this resolution was provided to you in the packet for your consideration. I will note that the resolution provides that qualifying vehicles will receive personal property tax relief as follows: that personal use vehicles valued at $1,000 or less will be eligible for 100% tax relief. Personal use vehicles valued at $1,001 to $20,000 will be eligible for 36% tax relief. Personal use vehicles valued at $20,001 or more shall only receive 36% tax relief on the first $20,000 of value. And all other vehicles which do not meet the definition of qualifying will not be eligible for any form of tax relief under this program. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
questions or concerns, anybody?
Not really a question, but just to reiterate, I think this came about when Governor Gilmore was there. They want to get rid of the no car tax thing, and every year we go through this to try to. And that was the thing the state did too. They said they'll take away the car tax, which is basically the number 2 revenue generator for the county, and they reimburse us 100%. Well, they didn't do that. So that's what I think this is about as far as Commissioner's office, Sherry, coming up with the fair. So we give our citizens a little bit of a reprieve. So that's it. I think, and Caitlin, you can chime in if you want, but I think this is pretty much a routine thing, right? We just have to do this for state code. Is that correct?
Yes, it's required that we set the tax rate once a year. The calculation that the Commissioner revenue.
Right.
So basically, we have a finite amount of money, and each year that gets to be a smaller percentage because we're going back to that original amount that was approved by the General Assembly.
Any additional concerns, comments? Do you have a motion?
I move the Board of Supervisors approve and adopt the attached resolution to set a percentage of tax relief for the 2020 tax year at a level of 36% that is anticipated to exhaust personal property tax relief funds provided to Warren County by the Commonwealth of Virginia as authorized by the Warren County Code, Section 160-109.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Mr. Carter, your mic is causing some feedback again.
Okay. I'm outside. What else we got?
Mute yourself.
Please mute your microphone while you're outside.
There you go.
Thank you.
I just did.
Thank you.
The next part of our agenda is the general public comment period. It is an opportunity for citizens to give an input on issues on the board's agenda which are not the subject of a public hearing and is not intended as a question and answer period. Emily, has anyone signed up?
So I did 2 calls in the YouTube comment section just to make sure that anyone who was out there had an ample amount of time to submit comments. 3 individuals did. Ryan Messenger of 363 Wendy Hill Road wanted to report the results of 2 specific questions from the survey that the POSF board had sent out, which is questions number 7 and 11. 158 out of the 179 responses, or 88%, were in favor of seeing the roads within Shenandoah Farms better maintained, and 149 out of 179 responses, or 83%, were in favor of the Sanitary District and the county continuing with the capital improvement plan. Next was Tim Radigan of 6079 Stonewall Jackson Highway. He realized this is not a question and answer period, but asked when the Board of Supervisors was planning on advertising for the county administrator position. And then finally, we have Linda McDonough of 1205 High Top Road. She voiced her displeasure that the board has advertised for a public hearing in May to help county taxpayers with the 60-day grace period for interest and penalties on certain taxes, and yet the board raised the per lot fee for unimproved lots in the Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District from $265 to $350. We are citizens too. And those are all of the comments that I've received.
As of now, is there anyone else in the audience that may want to speak on the agenda?
I have received no additional comments in the last 15 or 20 minutes.
Final call. The agenda public period is now closed. You have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Carter?
Discussion.
Sure.
Mr. Mabe?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Aye.